Okay. Shabbat Shalom, Mishpacha. If I can be heard, going to get a one. We're going to go ahead and fire it up now. I have all systems a go on this end. I would like to again put out a few announcements that we need to put out going forward. One is that the son of Aaron, Kohen, is in travels right now. He's in the Middle East, as they call it today. So what we'll be doing is we'll be recording his message. His lecture is already recorded, so I'll fire it up here in a minute here, so we can listen to his lecture that way. Because sometimes his connection is just a little bit internet connection over there is just sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad. And so the lecture was pre-recorded, so that way that there won't be any issues, and everything will run smoothly on that front. So his lecture will come in that way. Great and interesting 6 days of labor, indeed, for all of us. I'm pretty sure in some way, shape, form, or fashion, we all have learned and grown in many different areas, and that's a great thing. So hopefully you've taken these experiences in your life, these past 6 days of labor, and you're using them for your benefit. Rabbi Bania is saying the volume is low here. I'll check that out on my end. Looks like I'm high end on this side, Rabbi Bania. So you may want to check your system. I'm at full capacity over here on my side. Also, you also want to look at the change time that's taking place as well. I know a lot of you are noting as well all of the events that are happening the world over, and a lot of things are going on. I'm pretty sure you heard about the synagogue event that took place, and things that are happening around the world, not only here in America but around the world. Quite interesting times that we do live in. Very interesting times. So we look at and we examine the events that are happening around the world, and we give thanks to the Master Yeshua, the Master Jesus of Nazareth, for protection and for guidance to help us and instruct us and give us the necessary roadmap, the blueprint that we need going forward to assist and help out. And I hope in all of these things that you see take place, that you see the true nature of humanity, regardless of race, creed, color, sexual orientation. You know, when tragedy or disasters happen, you truly see humanity step up. And I give thanks to the God of Israel. And more importantly, just you have to give thanks to humanity as well. Is that people will help out people regardless of classification, color, or any kind of other character trait that may be seen as polar opposite or an antagonist to whatever a person wants to believe. So I think that's a marvelous thing that we've seen occur, and I would encourage more of that. Sometimes and I'm pretty sure a lot of you see this in your lives as well. Sometimes when you see things happen to you, when you have circumstances happen to you, you don't understand why the circumstances happen to you until maybe later on. But the circumstance is happening to you because it's an opportunity for you to grow in some way, shape, form, or fashion. And you may not see that. Grow as a better person, or to either help expose and help you understand the person that you really are. You see, these things can't be learned; they must be done. You see, experiences are not learned. You do experiences, if you know what I mean. So I think that needs to be put out on the front burner, because we all need to understand is that we all are going to have circumstances. Every last one of you in this room, you're going to have a circumstance. You may be in one now. every day is a circumstance, maybe many, or circumstances, plural. But we all will have circumstances. We all will have events in our lives that need to be dealt with. And the majority of the events in our lives, and I guarantee you, majority of the events or the circumstances that do come up in our lives are created by ourselves. We actually create the circumstance. We actually create the event. And so we always teach here, and will always teach, is that the problem is not exterior, it's actually interior. So to be able to make yourself a better person, you fixing yourself, you knowing yourself, will actually, make the light shine. When you look at a candle, what does a candle need to do exteriorly to function or to operate? It doesn't need to do anything exteriorly. Everything's already built into the candle to work properly. But the only thing that does need to happen, it needs to be what? It needs to be lit. That's the exterior factor. It just needs to be lit. Once it's lit, it'll do its thing. It doesn't need to call, the candle down the street. Hey, come over here, Charlie, so we can make this happen. No, doesn't need to do that. Everything is already built into the candle to work properly. See yourself as an awesome candle, because you are. But what needs to be dealt with is the interior of our candles, so that we will understand and know how to shine. What are the mechanisms that make our candle shine, that actually make us light? You see? And some mechanisms needs to be, rebooted, while others need to be deleted. And this is the whole process of life. This is what life is really all about. You really getting to know yourself and understand yourself, and what helps you do that but circumstances, situations that you create. Now, we talked about this last Shabbat. You just need to become better at creating situations. You create, situations that are conducive for you to be a luminous light that will shine. Whether it's raining, whether the sun is out, whether there's a hurricane coming, or a tsunami, whatever, the light will shine. And I think, and I see this in the world over, is that humanity is a beautiful creation. It's because you see people come together. Now, how many of you have seen this? It's just me. I sit back and I watch these things. I see people come together from all kind of ethnicities, all kind of backgrounds, and they actually pull together and help one another get back on their feet, or just comfort and giving them solace and giving them the comfort that they need going forward. I mean, you all, it doesn't have to, and I don't want you to look for those big things, because when you look for those grandiose big things, you'll miss the little and the big. I would encourage you all to look at just those little things, the little tiny things. I saw this one ad that I thought was not even an ad, but it was a story, a picture that was taken. These two people were, these people were queuing up in a healthcare facility, and a woman, she had a baby with her. Looked like the baby was still very young, and the woman, how when you're queued up at a healthcare facility, they give you about loads of paperwork to fill out before you can, they want to know your history, they want to know, payment information and all this, that, the other, and the third. So there's a lot of things that need to be filled out. So the woman came in, and she had a little baby with her, and she was trying to fill out the necessary paperwork on the clipboard, and she couldn't do it properly with the baby. She was actually trying to hold the baby at the same time. I tell you, women are like amazing. They can. You want to talk about multitask? Study a woman. Look at a woman. They multitask. They do multitask. I mean, they just do it. gets done. It's amazing. I like to watch. I like to see that take place. So there's this picture of this woman trying to fill out the information, the medical information on the clipboard. And as she's filling out the information, the man next to her, the woman in reference to is a woman of color. So of course the baby is a baby of color as well. And then next to her is this Caucasian man. And you know what this Caucasian man does? He takes the baby, little baby. He takes the little baby from the woman, and he's in the picture. He's embracing the little baby on his shoulder. The baby's resting on his shoulder and is allowing the woman to fill out the necessary paperwork that she needs to fill out in the healthcare facility so that the baby or herself can be seen. The image, the picture, the image of that was just so amazing and quite telling and instructional for humanity today to just get on regardless of color, race, class, because all of these things, they'll stir up a situation if you are an antagonist to one of these areas. You see, when you look at the Middle East in general, what do you see? It's not a color warfare that's going on over there. It's an ideology or a class warfare, because you're not brought up in my particular class, my particular way of belief, then I have to be an antagonist against you. You see, what do we see over here in North America? Same thing, but just in different aspects. You can take it even further and ask yourself this: what do I see in my life, in my world, in my nation, people that are around me? What do I see? What kind of clashes do I see going on? And then how can I, remedy, if not remedy, but how can I not be, an enabler to this kind of behavior? How can I be a protagonist instead of an antagonist? You see, that's what you must ask yourself. I can guarantee you 99.9% of the time, you being a protagonist, the best way to do that is just to not say anything. Not say anything. Not add any more fuel to that particular fire. It's just not say anything. So I think that's important for us to understand. Very, very important. J.B. Yashrael is saying this. He's saying, indeed, Chief, such a beautiful story about a man helping the woman with her baby. It really bothers me how the news media will cherry pick stories to stir up division. Oh, indeed, they have their purpose. They have their purpose because apparently, in their understanding, from what I understand, is that good stories don't sell or don't, stir up the necessary volume that they need. So, they have this saying that, if it bleeds, it leads. So, unless there's destruction, unless there's chaos, death, then, these are the kind of stories that they're looking for. But they're not, and I'm not saying all media is like this, because I read this story from a media source. So, there are still, those out there that understand that there must be a balance. And I think we all need to understand this. There must be a balance of good and bad. I think when you can balance that out, you'll find yourself a more productive and equitable type of company or conglomerate or organization when there's balance. When you try to be just, right, and fair, like our God is just, right, and He's definitely fair. You're going to get a fair take. You may not get a fair take here on this earth, but in heavens, you'll get a fair take. You're going to get a fair take. It's going to be a just take. And you see, these are the types of characteristics and character traits that we all are striving for here on this earth. Type of behaviors to make us better people, to make us upright type of people. We always talk about righteousness and being upright. Well, these are the type of things that will assist you and help you to be upright. These type of actions, like this man with this woman, this is what we're supposed to be doing. Don't look for righteousness as some kind of spiritual thing. Being upright is a physical action. I want you all to understand that. You are descendants of Hebrews. Physical action is what drives us. Physical action. Let's stay in the physical. Let's stay out of the metaphysical. A lot of folks want to take you to places that you can't comprehend because they see this as a good thing. Not understanding and the mystery part of it. But no, I want to bring you back down to earth. I want to bring you back down to the ground roots. I want to get you rooted in the ground. Because listen, at the end of the day, just like we learned in our first book, the book of Bereshit, the book of the beginnings, Genesis, is that we were formed from what? We were formed from the dirt. We weren't formed from some celestial meteorite out there in left field of Pluto. You were formed from this very earth. And then the breath of the creator of the heavens of the universe was breathed into you to animate you. But you were formed from the dirt. So let's root ourselves back down in the dirt. Let's come back to earth. How many of you in your past religious experiences were thought to think this way, celestial, to think like the by and by and what's going to happen in the future? And I mean, your whole life was just driven on things that were just, you couldn't understand, and things that you just could not see. You see, just like Rabbi is talking about, we need to come back to reality. And you see, those things need to be unlearned. It's because you've been conditioned to think, of this omnipotent and all-powerful God, which He is. But you've been taught to think that you can have this spiritual, that the spiritual is more important than the physical. But I'm here to tell you, when you begin to fix and to enhance your spirit, your physical, your spiritual actually gets better. When you begin to fix your physical relationships, your spiritual relationship with the Creator gets better. Remember, we are earthly beings. We were formed from this earth. So what's important for us to do is to have earthly experience. You see? I hope you all understand this. This is so very important. Because it's all about relationships. But yeah, you've been conditioned to think, oh, I have to have a relationship with God. And yet in that process of you having a relationship with God and you striving for this relationship with God, you forget how to have a relationship with your children. You put the back burner of your relationship with your wife or with your husband. You put that on the back burner. How many of you have done that? How many of you understand exactly what I'm talking about? And you your whole life, you strive to have this relationship with the very Creator, with God. And you've neglected your children. You've neglected your husband. You've neglected your wife. What is that? Think about it. So now we're in the process of understanding that I have to enhance my physical side. I have to make this physical body, this physical being that I am, I have to make this world a better place. The world to come is just that. It's the world that is coming. But you live in, just like Rabbi talked about, you live in a world now, in reality. Now, today. You see? I think that's so important for us to be positive, productive human beings to humanity. and come out of this, this spiritual sense. Because when the physical is bettered, or when you make that physical man upright, the spiritual man also becomes upright. Think about that going forward. And think about all of our patriarchs and matriarchs in our history as Hebrews, as Israelites. And note, I want you to note in your study, note, was it a spiritual thing that made the connection with the Creator of the heavens and the universes, with the God of Israel? Or was it a physical thing that these great patriarchs, these great matriarchs did? Rabbi Bania is saying this: I did have challenges in the traditional schooling system because I would ask, what is the practicality of this education I'm receiving? Oh, indeed. Oh, indeed. And I think that's so important to understand. It's because that they're so busy trying to teach you something that you never learn. Think about that. They're so busy trying to teach you. If you're just trying to be taught, you will never learn, because you need to be learned, and learning is practicality. Just like you described, Rabbi Bania, you begin to ask teachers this: well, how how do I, yeah, this is good in theory, but how do I take that in my daily living and apply it so I can put food on the table, at the house, at my physical home? You see, but most people want to live in theory. Theory doesn't put food on the table. It requires action. It requires you doing things. And this is what we all want to improve on as physical beings, is enhance our doing. Is to make sure what we're doing is right in the sight of God. Thus, right in the sight of man. Think about that going forward. Abraham opened up his doors to everyone. That was right in the sight of man. Think about it. Because, who's not going to be happy to understand and to always be able to know, well, I know I can always go to Abraham because his door is always open. Let's just put aside the physical food factor, which is important. Who do you think is the better person to really be able to understand something? A person whose stomach is full, or a person whose stomach is just growling? It's just talking to you. He's so hungry. Which is the better conduit, the better human, to really understand something and really listen and really have his receptacle up for receiving information? I guarantee you it's going to be the one with the full stomach. I guarantee you. Full stomach any day of the week. But just to know, Mishpahah, just think about this. Just to know, and I want you to take this and really run with it. Just to know, if individuals, if humanity could just know that, you know what, regardless of what happens, I always know I can go to Abraham's house. Isn't that awesome? Regardless of what happens, I always know that I can go to Jerry's house, because Jerry will listen to me. Not necessarily just feed them food, but Jerry will, and these are the kind of receptacles that we need to be. If we're considered light to the nations, people in darkness, what are the first thing they want to do? Go to the light. You hear people, how many of you read books or you hear stories about people who have afterlife experiences? Most of them, they always say what? I saw this light and I was drawn to I wanted to go to that light. That's spiritual side. That's outside of your body type experiences. But let's bring that back to earth. Let's bring that back to reality. People in darkness, people who suffer from depression, people who may be suffering from mental anxieties, people who may be suffering from stress. They're in the darkest moments of their life. They need a place where they in the darkness they see a light and they want to be drawn to that. That's you and I, Mishpaha, by the way. And if it's not, it should be. Because we're not talking, remember, we're not talking about these spiritual, things that take place outside. Winiko Shabbat Shalom to you. That take place outside of our, reality. We're talking about reality. So this is a great indicator for you going forward that you can utilize to see, well, really, in your assessment of yourself, because you should all be doing assessments of yourself. And your assessment of yourself, how many people are drawn to you? Let's just say in a week. Let's just say one time out of the week you sit down and you really just look back and you examine and you meditate on your 6 days of labor. Maybe that's even today. And you ask yourself this question: how many people were drawn to me this week that actually came to me out of the blue? Some that I know, some people maybe that I don't even know. Maybe it could even have been a stranger. They come up to you and they ask you a question, or they just they vent to you, or they just come to you seeking advice. You see, because at the end of the day, this is what letting your light shine is. Do this assessment, and I guarantee you, this will make you a better person. Because, and now I'm not saying, well, Rabbi, you're saying if I'm not a magnet, I'm not attracting people, then there's something wrong with me. No, I'm not saying that. But I'm saying that in your world, and it can even be your husband, your wife, your children, your mother, your father, your friends, family members, loved ones, they'll come to you. And they may not particularly like you that much, or like the way you believe, or like how your selection of permissible foods. But when the rubber hits the road, when that darkness comes, believe me, people are looking for light. They're drawn to the light factor. And that light factor needs to be you and I. Even if it's just, sometimes we don't even have to say anything. But we just have to have those 2 ears up to just listen. How about that? And they keep coming back to you because they find you to be a great listener. What a great compliment that is. And for that one, you can pat yourself on the back. And it's unfortunate that we've been conditioned to think that we cannot pat ourselves on the back. But I'm encouraging you today to pat yourself on the back. How many of you are of that like? That you've been conditioned to just scrutinize yourself and put yourself down. Remember, we talked about balance. Yes, you are to criticize yourself. Don't criticize others, but you can do a critique and criticize yourself. But at the same time, if you can criticize yourself, guess what you can do also? You can also pat yourself on the back and congratulate yourself. How about that? Wow, Rabbi, I never thought I could congratulate myself. Yes, you can. And that also makes you a better receptacle, a better conduit, because that's making you a better person. That's actually illuminating your light even more. It's making your light stronger. So yes, Mishpaha, I would encourage all of you to criticize. Boy, that'd be a lecture in itself, right? To criticize and congratulate yourself. You need this balance to be healthy. For you to be a healthy individual, you need to do these kind of assessments. Remember, we talked about internalizing everything. And I understand this won't happen overnight, because you've been conditioned for so many years to externalize everything, not internalize everything. You've been told, no, point the finger at this person, that person, the next person, this person. This is why I don't succeed. This person is why I didn't get ahead. This person messed up my relationship. This person caused me to lose all that money. This person caused me to, get a divorce. Everything is externalized, and you point the finger at everybody. You see? Externalizing and pointing the finger every single body, lottie-dottie. Those days are done, Mishpahah. Now you're coming into a new light, a new likeness. And now you're going back and you're picking up those character traits of your father. Ukashim, Master Jesus of Nazareth. Now, it's going to take time. These things are not going to happen overnight. But it's all about you beginning to know yourself. Yourself. Assess yourself. What did the Master Yeshua, Jesus of Nazareth, what did he say that was so powerful? You know what he said? When the men would ask him, what is the greatest of all commandments? The greatest of all. And what did he tell them in paraphrasing? What did he tell them? He said, to love the Lord your God with all of your heart, all of your soul, and all of your very being. And then he said what? He said the second of these is to love your neighbor as yourself. Now, we understand the love your neighbor part, but I want you to clue in, and I've been thinking about this all this week in meditation. That last part is to love your neighbor as yourself. So the key to really understanding is to really know yourself before you can even know your neighbor. Think about it. As yourself. And that opens up an Amazon box of prizes, doesn't it? Because it begins to make you think and begin to make you meditate on yourself. You see, because if you don't have love for yourself, you don't even know yourself. How can you even love your neighbor? Much less your husband, your wife, your children, your friends and family members. Let's put neighbors to the side for a minute. So in your examination and being great students of nature like you are, you need to begin to know yourself. Learn yourself first. This is why when you come into the facts and the knowledge and the understanding of who you really are, the first place that the Master Yeshua will take you is to the desert. Why the desert, pray tell? Is because in the desert, how many of you ever been in the desert? Howbeit the Mojave Desert, howbeit, any of these desert places that our great earth is so beautified with. These desert lands. What happens in the desert? There is no neighbor next door in the desert. You're basically with yourself. The desert, the proverbial desert today, can be you alone time with yourself. I tell you, this was some of the greatest moments for me as I went through the desert. How many of you have been there? You've actually went through your proverbial desert. You came into the knowledge of the facts of who you are, and the first thing is that, and people see it this way. They say, oh, Rabbi, everything was taken from me. Everything I had, it seems like, was taken from me. And I lost everything. No, this is that desert moment. You're being brought to the desert. You see? You're being brought to the desert. Baruch Hashem, Master Jesus of Nazareth. You've been brought to the desert. And it's a beautiful thing, because during these desert times, what do you get to learn about? Not about, your neighbor Joe or Miss Sally next door. You get to learn about yourself. You get to learn self. You get to learn if you love yourself or if you don't love yourself. What yourself likes, what yourself doesn't like. You begin to deal with yourself. The inner man of who you are. Human nature of who you are. Why you were created. What's your purpose? You begin to deal with yourself. And then sometimes, in dealing with yourself, you find out that, oh, you love yourself. And at other times, you find out you don't like yourself. But going to the desert gives you an opportunity to fix yourself. To make yourself better. You see, because to love your neighbor as you love yourself, my goodness. When you do your examination and you, as students of nature, and you just sit back and watch the action and reaction of human nature, what do you find? I find this, is that at the end of the day, with the interactions and the goings on of human beings in my world, I see that a lot of people don't love themselves. This is why their outward portrayal of their reaction to other individuals is not all that great. It's because at the end of the day, it's not them being rude. It's not them being an evil person. At the end of the day, Mishpachah, they don't love themselves. You see? They're rude to themselves. Thus, the reaction that's portrayed out in the physical is that they're rude to other people. Or they're condescending to themselves because the outward appearance, the outward experience is that they're condescending to other people. Do you see it? This is what you must understand. So when someone is rude to you, they may be evil to you, they may have lambasted you and thrown the kitchen sink at you. These reactions of this person, what you must begin to understand is that it's not the person that is truly against you. It's that the person really just don't know themselves. And these same feelings for themselves are being portrayed and being manifested in the physical world as destructive and hatred towards another person. When at the end of the day, the person just has a discombobulated understanding of himself. And he never took time to do these very same foundational things that we all need to do as human beings, is look at ourselves. And be honest with ourselves first. Because if we're not honest with ourselves, how are we ever going to be honest with anybody here on the face of this earth? This beautiful earth that we're on. You see? It's so important to understand. Forget all the mumbo jumbo of religions. And let's get down to the basics of humanity. This is where a lot of people miss the boat, is they get so caught up in these things that are outside existence. Let's get back to humanity, to the meat and potatoes of how we need to live, how we need to get on with one another. But first you need to be able to get on with yourself. You see? Everybody wants all these great understandings. They want to be able to learn all of these great and marvelous things. Right? But to what ends? Just to gain knowledge? But I'm here today to tell you, people of the books, people that fear the creator of the heavens and the universes, is to begin to assess yourself and begin to do what's right. Everybody calls himself righteous, but just begin to do right. I want you to do right. Don't say right. Do it. Demonstrate it. Live right. Execute righteousness. You see? Alejandro is saying God is more down to earth than many religions. Indeed. And I would say more down to earth than all religions. I would take it even a step further, Alejandro. I tell you for sure, Alejandro. I don't want to mess up your name. Sorry about that. My apologies. So I think that's important for us to understand. So very important. We must get back to basics. You were formed from the dust of this earth. You and I, we all were formed from this dust of the earth. We're earthly beings. Just like Rabbi Benia says, we must stay in reality. You see, because the more we stay in reality, you see, the more we stay in reality, actually, it makes the outside of reality, we become more of a conductor to be able to understand those things that are outside of our reality. It's because we're so real. You know, they have a phrase in this nation. What do they say? Keep it real. What do they say? Keep it real. Or you just have to be real. I hear these youngsters say today, hey, you need to keep it real. Get real. There you go. They'll say that. And you know, that's so true. What they're telling you is true. They're telling you to get real, to get right. But again, at the end of the day, they're not doing it. So what do you call that? What do you call that? When you say something, but you do the polar opposite. I mean, come on. They tell you, okay, yeah, you need to get real. Okay? But when you get real, you know, but when you say get real, and you're not doing what get real says, what does that say? So God forbid. Yeah, they say what? Keeping it 100. Keeping it 100. Keeping it real. And give you all of these slang terminologies, which are so true. What they're telling you out of their mouth is very true. But where's the evidence to back up what you're saying? This is where I'm getting at today. We're getting to the ground roots of humanity. You know, we're getting to the grits and the greens, the meat and potatoes, the beans and the rice. Okay, we're getting to the beans and the rice here. Alejandro saying honesty is in our truth, not repeating Bible verse. Oh, indeed. Oh, indeed. Our Kohen, the son of Aaron, he teaches us this way, is that we don't want to be rote. We don't want to be rote type of people, where you just, oh, yeah, Rabbi, I read through the Bible in a year. I do it every year, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, you read through the Bible, but what have you learned? What have you learned? How has the Bible become practical in your life? I mean, what have you learned? Yeah, you read through the Bible in a year, but you hate your neighbor because your neighbor's dog poops in your yard. And you don't like the neighbor's dog pooping in your yard, so you're giving the neighbor all kind of expletives, this, that, the other, and you're telling the neighbor, don't ever bring your dog to my house. Next time I see your dog, I'm going to shoot him. I mean, oh, but Rabbi, I read my Bible. I read through the Bible every year, once a year, through the whole Bible. Oh, I'm so righteous. Are you? Come on, man. See, this is rote. We don't want to be rote. We just don't want to read the Bible just to read it, like some kind of storybook. We want to take the application of what the Creator in the heavens of the universes has left us for instruction. All humanity has been given this instruction. But what have they taken from the instruction of the Creator of the heavens and the universes and from the Master Yeshua, Jesus of Nazareth? They've taken it and they said, oh no, this book needs an upgrade. We need to make some changes here and there. We need to retrofit this inside this and make this sound better and to make this give people goosebumps and to do all of these things, you see? My goodness. And this is what we can coin as modern day religion. And everybody has their religion out there. They have a religion. They take the Creator's instruction and they retrofit their own understandings in there to make it comfortable for them. And thus, in the mindset of thinking it's making them more comfortable, it's actually, at the end of the day, making them more uncomfortable. Think about it. I have been in a few religions or two. I can tell you. The more that they think they're retrofit and they change the Creator's instruction, it actually makes them more uncomfortable than comfortable. How many of you know what I'm talking about? You've been there. My goodness, I sat up underneath preacher after preacher after preacher, evangelist after evangelist. And I'm like, my goodness, you know, all of this mumbo jumbo, or like someone says here, hocus pocus. And I'm still just as confused as I was before I came in 3 hours ago. I'm like, my goodness. End of the day, The only thing that have changed in my situation is my wallet is a little bit lighter. That's it. That's it. At the end of the day, come on. At the end of the day, that's what I saw. And I'm here in San Antonio, and I saw this in I tell you, John Hagee's church was the last draw for me. I was like, my goodness. I'm in here listening to all this stuff over and over and over again. But I began to ask myself questions. Again, talking to yourself is very healthy. You all need to do this. Ask yourself questions and get answers for yourself. I began to ask myself this question. My goodness. What am I doing here? What has changed? What this guy's telling me, how is it changing my situation? And I realized that it wasn't. That it was just rote, like the son of Aaron teaches, the Kohen. It just rote. You're going through the motions. You're playing that same old record, that 45, that LP, and it's still skipping at the same spot. There's nothing changing. It just rote. So we have to come out of this and begin to understand that we're creators of we're creations of the Creator of the heavens and the universes. This world that we live in is a beautiful place. The nations, well, the God of Israel has dispersed you in, are beautiful places. And if they're not, you can make them beautiful. Well, but Rabbi, I'm just but only one person. Just like this teacher in San Antonio here said, she received her award for doing great things for students. You know what she said? She said this. She said, my mother always told me that I can't change the world. And I told my mom respectfully, yes, I can change the world. One student at a time. And she's absolutely right. You all can make a difference. Just one person at a time. Just think, everyone in this room, if every one of you made a difference to one person in this room, my goodness, that's making a difference. Exponentially, isn't it? So I would encourage you today to see yourself not as, oh, Rabbi, I'm just this one little measly, peasly old person. You shouldn't be saying about yourself anyway. And if you are, then you need to build encouragement within yourself. Encourage yourself. Pat yourself on the back. Yes, see your weaknesses, but also see your strengths. But you say, Rabbi, oh, I just can't do anything right. I'm just measly old person. What am I going to do? How am I going to change the world? I live here in such and such state, in such and such city. What am I going to do on such and such street? How can I change the world? Well, last time I checked, you go to Walmart, you go put gas in your car, you go to the movie theater, you're out shopping at the mall. You can make a change. One person at a time. Even if that change in your world is just within the confines of your family. You see? Your husband, your wife, your children, your mother or your father. You see, because I can guarantee you they're dealing with some kind of situation. And you can make their situation better. You can. You see? Our Kohen is saying first change yourself, then the others. Oh, indeed, our Kohen. Because at the end of the day, son of Aaron, as you know this, in changing yourself, you are changing others. Because you do interact with others. How many of you in this room are a hermit? And you actually stay within your cave. You can call it a man cave, a Shira cave, a woman cave. You actually stay in your cave all day long, 24 hours a day, 6 days a week, 7 days a week. And that's all you do. No, you are a social being. Why do you think social media is so popular today? It's because we're social magnets. We're earthly beings. Interaction and contact with another person is so very important. Kohen is saying, the son of Aaron is saying, Gandhi was one man who changed the whole nation in India and drove out the most mightiest empire of the British. There you go. And he's just one man. He was just one man. Here's one person at a time. My goodness. And again, Hakoin is saying, Gandhi did this without any weapons. My goodness. You see? So I think these things are very important for you to understand. Here in North America, if you have guns, so be it. If you don't like guns, so be it as well. But what's even most important that we do have is the weapon you, yourself, within yourself. You're the greatest weapon. You. Yeah, Rabbi, you're right. I watched the Bruce Lee movie last night, and that Kung Fu is awesome. I think I can do Kung Fu. I'm not saying like that. And I'm not knocking Kung Fu because I love Kung Fu movies. I like to watch Bruce Lee movies. But I'm not saying that. The greatest weapon that you have, my goodness, let's look at our forefather Abraham amongst our patriarchs. Abraham, last time I checked, was just one man. And to this day, 2018, going forward, he is the father of many nations. One man. He still talked about, he lived so many thousands of years ago, yet he still talked about today. Why? It's because he's the father of many nations. You see, of many nations. So you have to begin to look at what was the makeup of these type of individuals. Begin to study that kind of makeup. And I guarantee you that these men, mighty women, they all had a great understanding of themselves. Right? They all did. They loved themselves. They had compassion for themselves. They wanted to improve themselves. And thus, having these characteristics and character traits for themselves, they improved other people. It's just like a magnet. Someone said earlier, just like a magnet. People were drawn to you. Abraham always had his doors open. And you all need to be the same way. This is a good assessment for you to do for yourselves. Do people come to you? You see? Do people come to you? Are they drawn to you? Like people say, oh, go to the light. When you take your last breath, you'll see this light. Go to it. You see? Do people go to you, or do people shy away from you? See, this is an important question to ask yourself. Because if you're running around here saying that you are light to the world, right? You're running around here saying you're a light to the world. Well, last time I checked, most people that are in darkness, and a lot of people are, proverbial darkness. Darkness can come in many forms. Is that the first thing they want to do is find that light, and they're drawn to it. Like a bee, like an insect to that bug light that I put on at night with these mosquitoes here in San Antonio. That seem to crop up with all this rain that we're getting. Is that they're drawn right to the light. Because if you're not drawing people to your light, and if people are actually shying away from you, what is that an indicator of, pray tell, Mishpahah? Is that there's no light in you. Because then nobody's drawn to you. Think about that. Is that there is no light coming your way. Not a flicker. So the mosquito will just keep flying because he doesn't see any, he's not drawn to anything. So these are the kind of questions, right, that you need to ask yourself. More importantly, at the end of the day, you need to be honest with yourself. If you cannot be honest with other people, at least afford yourself the opportunity to be honest with yourself. Being honest with yourself and beginning to assess and analyze yourself are important factors that sometimes can take many years. I mean, I can tell you, my proverbial desert, I spent years in my desert. A year or two. Over a year, though. And I firmly think the pattern, and if you don't mind, Mishpahah, if you don't mind, if you feel comfortable putting out how many years you spent in the desert, kind of give some context here and see what an average is. But I'm thinking the average is about a year plus that you will spend in the desert. And what I mean by spending in the desert is this is alone time with yourself. You see, that time with yourself, where you're just with yourself, by yourself, for yourself. All the exterior factors have been put to the side or just have been removed. I hear this a lot. Oh, Rabbi, I came into the knowledge of the Creator of the heavens and the universes, and when I did, all hell broke loose. Everything was taken from me. My life, I was like, Baruch Hashem. All right, this is the beginning of you beginning to know yourself and who you really are. Before you can begin to love anybody, you have to love yourself. The Kohen said it earlier. He talked about, you see, before you can go out and do anything, for others, you must take care of self. So some of you may be in that desert right now today, listening via YouTube or, here in this room. You're still alone. You're by yourself. You're with yourself. You're for yourself. And this is a good thing. Don't see it as a bad thing. Because I have a lot of colleagues around me that they need to have people around them to survive. It's like they can't get on by themselves. How many of you know what I mean? Maybe some of you even know people like that. It's like a long time, that's detrimental to them. They can't be alone. They always need to be surrounded with people. You see? And that's not the case. That's actually counterintuitive and counterproductive. Is that you do need that alone time. And even though some of you even may be out of your proverbial desert, you still need to make time for yourself. That alone time, so that you can assess yourself. See where you need to be making improvements. See where you need to, double up. Pat yourself on the back. Give yourself encouragement. Congratulate yourself, while at the same time criticizing yourself, seeing where you need to improve, doing this, critical assessments. These things is vital, so important for us human beings. I think this is so important for us. So important. So being social beings is very important for us to get on. Our books tell us that we're to leave and cleave. Leave your mother and father and you cleave, you see? So very important. Is that we leave and we cleave. We don't leave and we go off and be a monk somewhere and we seclude ourselves and we just live with nature and blah, blah, blah. No. We're social beings. Every one of you in this room and listening via YouTube, you were created from the dust of this earth, you see? We all created from the same dust. So what does that mean? That we should all be together, you see? We should all be together in this world. And what I note with the circumstances and events that do happen world over is that you see this coming together when chaos takes place, when disaster, as they call it, happens. But in disaster, I see development. While others just see destruction, guess what I see? I see development. Because I see people coming together, you see? I see people helping one another. And they can give a flying flute about what their color is, how long their hair is, if it's straight, if it's short. You see? So I think that's so important for us to understand. So very important. Is that at the end of the day, we are all human beings. And just as we need to be students of our books, we need to be students of nature to really understand. How are we going to get on and truly, as the Master Yeshua, Jesus of Nazareth said, and truly love our neighbor as we love ourselves? Think about that. You think about that for a minute. Everyone's quick to, oh yeah, I believe in the 10 Commandments. Yes, but do you do the 10 Commandments? Do you know how to do them? Belief is one thing. Doing is a total different category. Doing is a totally different category. Oh, but I believe. But are you doing? See, that's the question. This is what separates the mediocre from the mighty. The mediocre meaning those that just believe, and the mighty being those that do. I hope you understand. Boy, that'd be a whole lecture in itself. The meek from the mighty, you see. Think about that. Because when you stand before the Creator of the heavens and the universes, He's not going to say, what did you believe? He's going to say this. What did you do? Did you do my will? The Master Yeshua, Jesus of Nazareth, said in the book of Matthew, He said, not everyone that will enter the kingdom of heaven, but he that doth the will of my Father. That's heavy. That's heavy. He that doth the will of my Father. That's heavy. Will doesn't have anything to do with how you believe. It's what you're doing. And the Chochmah, the Ruach HaKadosh, the set-apart spirit, she began to teach me some things this week about will. That willpower. The will. And there's a lecture brewing down the pipe with this will factor, which is so very important. The will. He that doth the will of my Father. Using King James terminology, translation. The will. No, the W-E-L-L. Or the W-I-L-L. The will of my Father. We need to do that will. And that's what I've been seeking. And I found that will. Now I understand I must do. Will is action, you see. That's so very, very important for us to understand. And this is the problem that we see world over, with a lot of people that call themselves righteous, call themselves religious, call themselves God-fearing, call themselves spiritual, is that they have no clue about the true nature of the Master Yeshua, Jesus of Nazareth, or the will of the Father. They've been mistaught, unlearned, mistaught, misunderstood, and that's the problem. Because at the end of the day, here's the question. Here's the kicker. Who are you learning from? You see, because that's detrimental. Think about it. Who are you learning from? That's the kicker. You see, because who are you learning from will definitely dictate your understanding and what you truly understand about the Creator of the heavens and the universes. That's the take right there. So at the end of the day, it comes to how much revelation are you going to receive, or are you willing to receive, is going to be based on the will factor. And your desire and your sincerity to truly obey the will of the Abba, the will of the Father. Because the Master, Yeshua, Jesus of Nazareth, and this may be revelation to some of you, he said, to get into the kingdom of heaven, you have to obey the will of the Abba, the will of the Father. He didn't say obey the will of Paul. That may be revelation to some of you today. But you may want to go back and re-examine the words of the Master Yeshua, Jesus of Nazareth, who I know through revelation is the Messiah, you see. So I think that's so important for us to understand. So very, very important for us to understand. Kind of reminds me, right? I was watching, what was I watching? Madagascar. I love that little cartoon. And, you know, you had, how many of you seen Madagascar cartoon? It's an awesome little flick. I forgot which one it was, but I was watching Madagascar. And you remember in one of those scenes where, you know, they had the monkeys on the chain? How many of you remember that? All the monkeys were on the chain. They made this chain link, and a message was given out at the bottom of the chain link saying, oh, make sure you do this. Okay, that was the message from the messenger. He said, okay, we want to go this way, or we want to go do this. By the time the message went up the monkey chain link, it was something totally different and totally opposite of what the messenger had originally said. There's wisdom in that. There's great wisdom and understanding in that, of the Madagascar movie. There's great wisdom and understanding on that. For those that are wise will understand. So I think it's so very important for us to understand Mishpah as we go forward. So as you know, these past 6 days of labor, there's been a lot of events happening world over. A lot of things have been taking place here in America, maybe here in your city, your state as well. And you as the people of the books, you that, you know, are in service to the Creator of the heavens and the universes, you need to pay attention to what's going on around the world and study nature just as you study our books. You see, I think it's so very, very important. So very, very important. And always remember, keep your foundation based on what does the laws of Moses say. What does Moses say? Because that's what's important for us as Torah followers. You know, as foundations. And even the Master Yeshua, Jesus of Nazareth, said it himself. He says, well, what does the laws of Moses say? Because that's our gold standard. That's our foundation as the people of the books. It's our foundation as we examine and look at our history. You see? Because as I was seeking the will of the Father, as I was seeking the will of the Father, I was brought right back to the laws of Moses. That's why this is where I found the will of the Father, through the sons of Aaron, through the Kohanim, the priesthood, the teachers of Israel. And this is why it's so very important that you're taught by a proper teacher. You see? A teacher that's mandated by our Bible, who is to be taught by. Many people claim to be teachers. They give you lip service of a teacher. Oh, I'm a teacher. Everybody can be a teacher. I'm a teacher. He's a teacher. She's a teacher. We're all teachers. I stayed at a Holiday Inn last night, so that makes me a teacher. My goodness. But at the end of the day, you know, what are you listening to with those 2 ears that the Creator gave you? What are you listening to? You see, so you can go out and execute. So that make your execution flawed. If you're listening to, you're not plugged into the right source. By the time the information gets up through that monkey chain that we talked about, you see, then you realize, my goodness, he wants me to do this, and you go out and do it, and you realize that you come back and you realize that you Monday morning quarterback your situation, and wow, that was totally wrong. I misunderstood. And at one point or another, we've all been there. As to where we've been, how many of you can say that? At one point or another, you've been there where you've been told wrong information. How many of you in this room at one time or another has been told wrong information? Oh, and you acted upon wrong information. You see, at one time or another, we've all been there, right? So I'm gonna put on one. I mean, we all been there. Come on, man. We've all been there at one point at a time. But Baruch Hashem, Master Jesus of Nazareth, that we learn from these experiences, and that we get a revelation that, oh, wow, that information was wrong. And sometimes that takes a while for you to get revelation. This is why we never judge humanity. You should not be and put yourself in a judgment seat. We never judge humanity by nobody's standard, you see. We never judge humanity. Because we don't know at what level of revelation they're at. They may not be at the same revelation level that you are at. So how are you going to sit there and judge them? We're to show these kind of character traits. We're supposed to be patient. We're supposed to be long-suffering. We're supposed to be kind. We're supposed to show love. And at the end of the day, we're to treat people the way we want to be treated. It's to love your neighbor as you love yourself. Think about it. We make things so difficult. We make things so difficult when yet they're so easy. They're so easy. Yet we make things so difficult. Why? It's because we come into some understanding and we take that and we become theologians and we understand things the wrong way. We understand things with the man mindset instead of the God mindset. You see, the whole kit and caboodle of it is, are you obeying what God said according to God, or are you obeying what God said according to man? Think about that one. Write it down and ask yourself this question every day. Am I obeying what God said according to man, or am I obeying what God said according to God? I ask myself this question every day, and it keeps me on the right track. No derailment over here. Oh, it keeps me on the right track. The train is still moving. Baruch Hashem, Master Jesus of Nazareth. You must begin to start to ask yourself the tough questions, you see. Very tough questions. And again, you must be making sure that you're following the right leadership. That's key. That's key. Do you remember what Moses said before he died? As he was talking to the Creator of the Master Yeshua. You remember what he said before he died? He said this. He said, I don't want these people that I've been leading, and I'm paraphrasing. I don't want these people that I've been leading for so long to be like sheep without a shepherd. Think about that. Some folks are shepherd and sheep. How many of you have ever heard of individuals who said, oh, I don't need a teacher. I teach myself. I'm my own teacher. You see, they play the role of shepherd and sheep. How do you do that? I don't know. I do not know. But I can tell you this. Let's bring it to reality. Even those folks that are successful in business, maybe have a lot of money, successful in any kind of aspect. You know what? You know what the commonality in all these people is? Is every one of them will tell you that they had a teacher and that they have a teacher. Think about that going forward. That's heavy. So when you get these folks, people with the mindset, and there's some out there that say, oh, I don't need a teacher. I teach myself. You see, I don't need a teacher. I make my own way. I do my own thing. And you know what I say? I say, best endeavors to you. May you have a wonderful life following yourself. That's what I say. You see, you can't sit here and be judgmental and condemn people and put them down. It's because, you know why? Number one, you haven't walked one day in their shoes, so you don't know where they're at. And number two, you don't know their level of learning and who they're taught by. You don't know. And a lot of times you got to look at the ignorance factor as well. There's a lot of folks who are just ignorant. They just do not know. They have no knowledge, no understanding, no instruction on where to go. And if they do have it, they've been fed wrong information. So I would encourage all of you to take this into consideration before you want to jump on the judgment bandwagon. Yah forbid that you want to jump on that bandwagon and you want to start putting people down. Oh, because he talks this way. Oh, his hair is this way. He does things this way. Stay away from the judgment bandwagon. How many of you know anything about a boomerang? For those of you in Aussie land, you should know about a boomerang. What happens when you throw a boomerang, Miss Baha? Any of you ever done that before? My nephew had a little little Nerf boomerang. I threw that sucker. My goodness. Put some strength behind it trying to show off. And you know that boomerang, it came right back and it hit me in the head. Little Nerf boomerang, thank God it was a Nerf boomerang. So you have to be careful about what you're throwing out. Because guess what happens at the end of the day? It's just like that boomerang. It's going to come back and it's going to hit you. Any of you know what I'm talking about, or am I just talking to myself? We're dealing with reality here today. We're not here to quote Bible verses. We're not here to make you feel good and give you goosebumps. But we're here to give you the foundations to have a wonderful life, a fruitful life, and a life of abundance. Baruch Hashem, Master Jesus of Nazareth. If you have some other agenda other than that, then you may be wanting to look for another Power Talk room. See, it's that boomerang effect. You don't want to be running around here spewing out, throwing out judgment. Because guess what's going to come back to you when you throw out judgment? Can anybody tell me? The same way, I'll balance it out. It's when you throw out patience, you throw out long suffering, you throw out loving kindness, guess what's going to come back to you? You throw out compassion, you throw out love, guess what's going to come back to you? This is real stuff. These are laws that many people don't understand. So we need to be very mindful and careful of that. Because I'm going to tell you, this Power Talk room is a great forum. And it's also a great instructional teaching tool as well. It's because how many of you know, and you get a lot of keyboard warriors that come through here. And what do? The first thing they're doing is they start spewing off all kind of stuff. And then what happens? The first thing you want to do, how many of you get that reaction, and then you get that reaction, and you want to fire back? How many of you been there? See, this is why I love the Power. I love this forum. I love this open door policy because it begins to help you, begin to temper yourself. Because sometimes folks will come through here and they'll say things and it'll push your festivity button. How many of you in this room have a festivity button? I'm going to put up a capital P for that. You have the festivity button. And they'll push that button. And that button will begin to make you take action in a way that you'll regret later. The festivity button. Always remember that you have one. You're a human being. You have a festivity button. Now, to the level it takes for that festivity button inside of you to be initiated, well, that'll vary. You see? That'll vary. That'll vary. But we all have that button. And I tell you what, if it's not in this Power Talk forum, it's around the water cooler at work. It's the neighbor next door. It may be even your husband, your wife. It may be that child of yours. But that festivity button, my goodness. You must be very careful and mindful of that. Now, what we want to do is make it difficult to hit that button. And so we have to run up on scenarios or situations or events that occur to make us learn to temper ourselves and to really sit back and really assess our situations before we jump into some kind of rash action. Because at the end of the day, I hope this is not revelation to you, but if it is, Baruch Hashem, Master Jesus of Nazareth, at the end of the day, is people don't know what you're thinking, but they see your reaction. Wow. People don't know what you're thinking, but they see your reaction. And then you know what they'll tell you? Is that, oh, this manifestation of your reaction is based on what you were thinking. How many of you have been there? I've been in a few little spats with some ex-wives. And they'll say it this way. Oh, you only say what you really mean. How many of you heard that before? You only, you get in those heated moments to where, the spouse pushes that festivity button. And they'll say, oh, you only said what you really mean. This is what you really mean. This is what you really mean. Oh, you said it, you really mean it because you were thinking it, and that's what you're really thinking. Because you said it. Oh my goodness. How do you tap dance out of that one, you see? You really can't. Because at the end of the day, you said it. This is why it's so important that your temperament is a temperament adjustment. We must temper ourselves. A lot of you're in the business field. You socialize with people every day. And sometimes people could come at to you from a bad angle. They had a bad night. The wife hit him upside the head last night. Husband didn't give me my allowance so I can go buy those new shoes. And so they come to you angry. They're very angry and they need to vent, and they need to take that anger that they have within inside of them and they need to put it out on somebody. So maybe at that moment you become the whipping boy, as they proverbially call it. And I don't mean running around here whipping boys. In no means. But you become that piñata. You see, that they need to hit on. They like to do that here in Texas for birthdays and events. Fill up the piñata with candy, put the blindfold on, and just start to swing. You become the piñata. Temperament is a necessity. And so during these times, you begin to learn how to temper yourself. How to make yourself better. Better in control. Better control yourself. This is very important to understand, Mishpah. So, do not at any time reject the situation that you're in. Don't see it as, don't see it as a negative thing. Always look at it as, this is a great teaching tool for me, a great ability for me to learn, to develop myself, to really do self-assessment and see how I'm going to handle the situation. Some folks today even call it in this form. Oh, this is a test. Oh, this is a test for me. How many of you in this room know that you go through tests? You're being tested. It's a testing for me. See where I am at. I think these things are vital. You're only tested. Humanity tests you. Many say, this is a test coming from God. No, this is a test to see how well you're going to get on with your neighbor here. As the Master Yeshua, Jesus of Nazareth, said. It's to love your neighbor as you love yourself. Okay, well, here comes the neighbor test coming your way. Some of you have this test. This test can occur many times in a day. You're tested. Well, Rabbi, I don't like the way she talked to me. She shouldn't talk to me like, she don't know who I am. Does she know who I am? She shouldn't be talking to me like that. Well, Rabbi, I really don't like his actions. He keeps doing them things, and he knows that pushes my festivity button, and I'm not going to tolerate it anymore. Ooh, wow. Wow. Do you see what I mean? Do you see what I mean? But I would encourage us all to take a step back before we even begin our little ranting and begin to take and manifest some kind of behavior, some kind of action /reaction. that may make folks, individuals, see us in a different light, opposed to the light that we're supposed to have for the nations that we're in. Setting an example for the very Creator that breathed into our nostrils. Esteeming His name. Well, we can't do it when we're calling somebody else outside of their name. How are we esteeming the name of the Creator when we're calling His creation? Because at the end of the day, let's get to the meat and potatoes here. That neighbor, that husband, that wife, that child is a creator of the very Creator. You see? We must understand that. We're in the book of Bereshit, the book of Genesis. The Creator brought all this forth. This is all His creation. So we need to have a high respect as human beings. Forget religion. You can throw religion out the window. We need to have a high respect for human beings, for all of God's creations. Baruch Hashem, Master Jesus of Nazareth. That includes pets, plants, and people. Wow, that's the 3 P's. Use it, Mishpachah. Those that are wise will understand. Pets, plants, and people. You need to show a high respect for all of those 3. It's important to understand. Leave the division to the religions. We're not here to divide. Think about this. Tadav that Imhochma. The God of Israel told us to multiply, not divide. Wow, that's awesome, isn't it? Take that one to the bank. That's not me. That's from the Holy Spirit. Did you get it, Mishpachah? The God of Israel told us to multiply, not to divide. He said, go forth, be fruitful, and multiply the earth. He didn't say, go forth, be fruitful, and divide the earth. Wow. Isn't that heavy? Meditate on that one for a few weeks, and it'll make you a better person at the end of the day. But this forum brings people in from all areas and all aspects of life. Same way our forefather Abraham, the father of our way of life, he had his doors open at all times for anybody. Lottie-dottie. He didn't have bouncers at the door and said, let me see if you made the list. You know how like when you go to some of these bars and restaurants that you have to wait in a line? Or you go to some of these, you go to some of these hangouts and there's actually a bouncer at the door and he'll just look at you and say, oh, you can come in, you can't come in, you can come in. I was like, wow, what is this? This man doesn't know me from Adam, but he's telling me, just by looking at me, I can't come in? The God of Israel is not like that. But guess what? Religions are. They're just like that. They have a bouncer at the door. Oh no, you can't come in. Religions are like that. You get some of these so-called Hebrew groups, some of these groups that say they follow the Master Yeshua, Jesus of Nazareth. And you know what they tell you? You try to go into their Power Talk room. You know what they tell you? They tell you this. Oh, if you don't say his name as Yahushai, then you can't come in the room. Bouncer at the door, Mishpachah. You leave the religions to their religiosity. We don't have time for that. Because all that does is divide. When the God of Israel, He taught us and told us to multiply. Go forth, be fruitful, and multiply where? In the earth. Not in space. In the earth. We're earthly beings, Mishpah. I hope you all are getting this. I hope I'm not talking over your head. I hope you all understand this. Many times we've been conditioned to think a certain way. And I encourage you today to unthink that certain way. Because it's a bunch of baloney. And thinking with this certain way is not going to give you a life of abundance. But it's actually going to cause you division. when we want to multiply. How many of you in this room want to multiply? I want to multiply, man. I want abundance. I want to multiply. I don't want to divide. But I'll tell you this. Sometimes to multiply, you must divide. Sometimes to multiply, you must separate. And then multiplication can take place. Because sometimes you must divide because the numbers are not adding up right. So to make the numbers right, you gotta divide, you gotta separate. This is why the children of Israel, when they came out of Egypt, well, I wouldn't even call them the children of Israel then. They were just the Hebrews. The Hebrews, when they came out of Egypt, how come they just didn't go right into the land flowing with milk and honey? Direct shot. No, they had to be taken from Egypt and brought into the desert. And so today in 2018, I still see us in that proverbial desert. The desert is a great place, Mishpahah. Don't put down the desert. Don't run the desert under the bus. The desert is your friend. But how many of you know this is the laws of life? Events, circumstances, situations can make you or they can break you. And this is why you'll see so many people that they come through and they won't embrace the God of Israel. They won't embrace and be a true believer in the very Bible that they have in their bookshelf. They won't embrace it. It's because, when you come to the facts, they want to go run after other truths. But when you come to the facts on the ground, how many of you, when you stand before, a court case, you're in litigation, you're in the people's court, do you want your lawyer that's representing you, or maybe you're even representing yourself, do you want your information to be based on facts or just on some truths? Think about that going forward. Simha, it's good to see you. Glad you found the room. Oh, and for Simha and for all the others, now that are in the room, I'll give this announcement as well. 2 quick announcements. The first announcement is make sure that you set your clocks back. We're going to fall back tonight before you go to bed. Set your clocks back. Those of you with, any kind of up-to-speed technology, it'll already do it for you. Even your laptops will do it for you, most of them. We're falling back. Also, for the teachings, all the teachings, just like Abraham's doors were open, all the teachings are open on YouTube. You'll find them on YouTube. When you go to YouTube, all you have to do in the search box on YouTube is type in SimAlt, SIMALT. Type in SimAlt, you'll find all the lectures, all the teachings will be there on YouTube as well. No coded, this, that, the other, and the third. No need to do that. So this is where you'll find the teachings as well. So that takes care of those. I wanted to put those 2 things out. So as reminders, as some of you may have to go to work in the morning, on Sunday morning, first day of the week, and you may find that, oh my goodness, I'm late for work. No, make sure you set your clocks back. For those of you who still use alarm clocks, I think alarm clocks have become a thing of the past. Most people are using their Android phones, their iPhones, or whatever kind of phones that they have, smartphones, as their alarm clocks. So that kind of takes care of itself because those phones kind of update themselves in that fashion. So just want to put that out as well. So it's good to have you, Simha. There's no issues here. We still see you as Simha. And yeah, this is the room. The room has changed. You see the room name has changed here in the Power Talk. We call it In the Footsteps of Jesus of Nazareth. But we're still here. And glad to see you here. I was trying to send you an invite as well, but I couldn't get through to send you an invite because your room seemed to be locked on private or something. I couldn't get through. But no worries. You're here. You know how to find the lectures now, as do the rest of you. And let's keep it moving forward. Oliver, vive la France. Shabbat shalom to you. Or maybe even be shalom shalom to you over there. So I think that's important to understand going forward. So back to our ground roots. Back to the ground roots. You see, some folks will get it and some will not. Some folks will get the revelation and some will not. And what do I say to that? So be it. And I say we have to afford people time. We must be patient with people if we want patience. You throw the boomerang out of patience, and guess what boomerang is going to come back to you? For more patience. You see? That's a great thing. Not everybody has to be up to snuff and at your level. Your level of righteousness, of being upright, of doing what's right in the sight of God and not in the sight of man. So be it. You know, what did I say? I've always been told this and conditioned to this as a young boy coming up. My teachers used to always tell me that boys mature a lot later than girls. How many of you have been told that before? Coming up, my teachers would tell my parents, "Oh, don't worry, boys just mature a little bit later in life than girls do. They're boys, they just mature later, so no problem. So, you're told this, you're like, well, my goodness. I mean, and I thought, I didn't think of it as a bad thing. I just said, okay, well, it just takes us a while to get it. And there's no problem with that. I see no problem with it. While others will say, oh, well, that's discrimination. You're saying this one is superior to this one, blah, 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 and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. See, it all goes back to your patience level and where you are. I'm willing to be patient and wait on the boys. It seems like the girls are patient to wait on the boys to catch up, no problem. And it seems like those teachers that said those things, they understood. They said, okay, it's no problem. You see, it's just boys, it's just, they just mature a little bit later. So we need to have that mindset. Because again, at the end of the day, you see, we have to take several things into consideration. One, you never walk one day in this individual's shoes. So don't be quick to criticize this person, put them down, run them under the bus, antagonize them, or belittle them. Yah forbid, if you consider yourself any way, embracer of this Torah, you've taken that yoke of the Torah upon you. You have embraced the Torah of Moses, the Torah of the Master Yeshua, Jesus of Nazareth. In no way should you be shaming anyone or putting anyone down. The religions love to wear this band on their arms. Was that WWJD? What would Jesus do? Well, Jesus, if you look at Jesus' life, he never condemned or put anyone down. He never belittled anyone. And believe me, he hung in all. He socialized in all crowds. Now, would anybody disagree with me that Jesus of Nazareth, that he was a socialite? Would anybody disagree with that? Was Jesus of Nazareth this hermit that only stayed in the mountains and he never left the mountains? He never went into the cities. He never traveled by boat, but he was this monk and he just stayed in his facility and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. No. He was a socialite. So, if you say, what would Jesus do? Then you would be social with other people. How would your behavior be? How was Jesus' behavior towards people? He was patient towards them. He showed loving kindness. He showed compassion. He showed love. He showed mercy. He showed forgiveness. See where we're going? We too need to replicate, as many me's, we need to replicate these same kind of behaviors. And for some of us, it's going to take years. And so be it. Because why? We understand that we have a lot of, and that we can all use another hefty dose of even more patience on my platter. Hey, give me some seconds and thirds and some fourths and fifths of patience on my platter. Because you know what I've understood in my life? That with patience, people are drawn to people that are patient. People that lack patience are drawn to those people that have patience. They'll come and say, oh man, I'm having this, that, the other, the third going on. Can you kind of help me out? Or just listen to what this is problem. What should I do? And probably one of the greatest bits of instruction that you'll give them is say, what? Be patient. Oh, you're learning patience right now. Your level of patience is being tested. So you can go to a deeper level of patience. You see, this is what's important to understand. You'll find yourself a magnet for those that desire more patience, or those that don't have patience. Because what do we find in life is that opposites attract, right? That's true. There's been songs written about this. It's proven in science is that opposites have an attraction. You see, a lot of times relationships are, kind of, broken and not successful. It's because many times folks go into a relationship with the mindset of this. Oh, I need to find someone that's just like me. How many of you have had that mindset before you, and that was a crash and burn type of relationship? Anyone in this room? Because I have to find someone that's just like me. No, you probably need to find someone that is polar opposite to you. That will bring you balance. You understand what I'm saying? How many of you know life is about balance? Those people that have a good, great, happy life are those folks that have balance in their life. You have balance. You take the good with the bad and you balance them both out, and you still you're still with good. Because you have balance. And you understand, just like Rabbi Bania talked about, is that you live in a life of you live in a world of reality. And you understand is that life is about situations. You can make a bad situation good, and you can make a good situation bad. It's about how you perceive it. You understand? So in my world, there's no such thing as good and bad. There's just a such thing as a life. And how I perceive this great gift of life that we've been given is all up to me. I create either good or bad. Think about it for a minute. Even when you see the worst, it seems like disaster, all hell is breaking through in your life, I still see good in it. What happened? What happened when in our books, right? Even when you're going through fire, you can still dance. Do you understand what I'm saying? Well, you might be saying, well, Rabbi, I'm going through fire right now and my clothes are burning. Well, I would encourage you to dance. Dance like Daniel. You see? Dance. Even in the fire. Rabbi Bania said something a while back, many Shabbats ago. He said, when you're going through hell, just keep walking. That stuck with me, Rabbi Bania, but it makes a lot of sense. When you're going through hell, just keep walking. Well, Rabbi, you don't know my... Well, just keep walking. It'll get better. Well, I just been like this. Well, just keep going. It's going to get better. You see, a lot of times as we go through hell, we sit down, we have a pity party, we dig a hole in hell, and you end up just staying there. You dig this hole for yourself. And you take that mustard seed and you turn it into a mountain. Think about that. Anybody remember the parable that the Master Yeshua, the Master Jesus of Nazareth, that he gave about the mustard seed in the mountain? Anybody remember that parable that he gave? What did he say? He said the faith of a mustard seed can move a mountain. Wow! The faith of a mustard seed can move a mountain. A lot of you are taking that the mustard seed and you make it in a mountain. When it's just a situation. We blow it all up. It's exacerbated and it's compounded to the umpteenth power. Because we sit there and we become stagnant. We become like pond water. We do not move. And we just stay in it. And that's all we put our focus and our thought process and our concentration on. And it's just that. And we're just there. And you never move on. Some of you, I'm speaking directly to you today. Because it's not coming from me. It's coming from the Imhokma. Directly at you, YouTube. Because that's where you are. You sit there and you stay. And you're having this pity party. And this woe is me. And blah, blah, blah. Instead of going through your hell by keeping on walking through it, you stay put. And you pitch up tent and you have a picnic in hell. And you just there, oh, Rabbi, you just don't know. You haven't walked one day in my shoes, blah, blah, blah. It just can't get no worse, Rabbi. I don't see how I'm going to get out of this situation. Yeah, look at what you just created for yourself. You just created a scenario where you don't see yourself getting out of the situation. Where you're in hell and you see what I'm saying? See, we create these things. This is why it's so important that you practice duct tape theology. You learn to really zip that mouth up. Put some duct tape over your mouth. And be very careful what you say and how you say it. Because in opening your mouth, you're creating. You're creating. So just be mindful of that. Be very careful. Be very mindful, Mishpahah. It's very important that you do understand that. The power that you have within you. You're a fine, precisioned, well-tuned, oiled machine. You're the most awesome weapon. You know, they're coming out with all this IT technology, this, that, the other. You got Siri talking to you. You know, they're coming out with all these robots and blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, you're still the most powerful weapon, the most powerful computer that the world will ever have. Why? It's because all of those other things were created by man. You were created by God. Baruch Hashem, Master Jesus of Nazareth. When you begin to get that revelation, your life becomes unlimited. Your life becomes, when you grab hold of that information. And I love technology. I like all of this stuff, man. Siri, tell me how the weather's going to be. Blah, blah, blah. Let me know. Tell me. And she'll tell me. Siri, tell me what's the most popular. Oh, she'll tell me all this. But at the end of the day, Siri is Siri. Siri was created by a man. You are created by God. In the images of God. You are created. Wow. That's so awesome. And at the same time, awe-inspiring. And if you're a fan of the Goosebumps, you should be getting them now. You see? Because that's heavy stuff. When you understand how powerful you are as a human being. And the unlimited power that is at your capacity. Man. It's heavy stuff. And I hope you all one day will get that revelation. And you'll understand that you can have an abundant life. And not only that you can have an abundant life, you will have an abundant life. And that you are the head and not the tail. And that you are the lender and not the borrower. I'm telling you, then these words become, my goodness. You want to talk about weapons? Words are weapons, man. And what can a weapon do? A weapon can protect you, but at the same time, a weapon can destroy you. Remember that balance. It's just, you know what it all depends on, Mishpachah? It depends on how you perceive. And it depends on your inner man. How strong is your inner man? How strong are you? Well, Rabbi, I don't know, honestly, how strong my inner man is, because I don't spend time with my inner man. That's fair. That's fair. That's fair. That's Mishpachah. I get that. But you can start spending time with your inner man. You know, just like you make dates. And I know Rabbi Zakari, he has date night with his wife. That's brilliant. Date night. He has a night that's set aside just for him and his wife to do whatever they want to do on date night. Go get a soda pop. Go watch a movie. You know, sit up with your feet up at the house. Blah, blah. Whatever they do. I don't know. Go make some egg rolls. I'm over here. I'm making tofu with the wife. But whatever it is, it's date night. That's quality time. At the same time you set aside time for date night with your spouse, you need to set aside, you know, date night for your inner man, for yourself, where you and yourself can get along. Some folks call it meditation. Some folks call it all kind of other different things. But you need to take that time to really just focus on yourself. That's healthy. But some just, you know, that's fair. That's honest for you to say, well, hey, I don't have these kind of relationships with myself. Well, you should. That's healthy. And it's wise as well. It'll truly make you a better person. When you begin to understand who you really are. And you begin to understand what you really like. I mean, I ask this to people all the time. You know, I ask them, well, what's your favorite color? What's your favorite food? You know, what's your favorite blah, blah, blah? It doesn't matter. Sometimes they have to think about it. They don't even know. They're like, wait a minute. Let me think. You should know what your favorite color is, what your favorite food is, who's your favorite actor, who's your favorite actress, blah, blah, blah. You should know these things about yourself. But, you know, sometimes, you know, people don't even know. It takes, well, and that's a tough question for some people. They have to really think about it. Wait a minute, let me think about it, Rabbi. I'm going to get back with you on that one, Rabbi. And so in telling them these things, you know what I'm actually doing? I'm fueling them to really begin to open up and understand themselves. Really begin to examine themselves. What do you like in a man? What do you like in a woman? How do you like your coffee? How do you like your tea? Well, I don't know, just any kind of way, no problem, blah, blah, blah. You should know yourself. And you should be continually learning to know yourself. Self is key. Well, no, Rabbi, that's being selfish. No, that's actually being selfless. But first, you must know yourself. I think, from what I see in my life experience, is that, you know, self has been put on the back burner when it comes to examination. Self has been totally forgotten about because we're preoccupied with too many other things outside of self. Oh, I must do this. Oh, look what this person doing over here. Oh, let me monitor that person. Oh, I got to keep my eye on this person. And you're too busy keeping your friends close and your enemies closer. that you forget about self. And like I always like to tell people, you're too busy drinking other people's Kool-Aid when you don't even know the flavor. You're too busy drinking other people's Kool-Aid and you don't even know the flavor. When you need to be kind of concerned about, well, how you like your Kool-Aid? No. How's my Kool-Aid taste? Well, you don't even know because you're too busy drinking other people's Kool-Aid. I grew up on Kool-Aid. I hope people understand what Kool-Aid is. Anybody don't understand that? Anybody else in here grew up on Kool-Aid besides me? Yeah, I grew up on Kool-Aid, Mr. Hart. Kool-Aid, yeah, that's the thing. That was the thing in my base. Kool-Aid. Gotta have the Kool-Aid. Shane, y'all put some 2 1s on that. JB Yasrael has 3 1s up on that one. It's the Kool-Aid, man. Kool-Aid and Tang. Oh, yeah. Reebani, I know about some Tang, too. I know about some Tang, man. I tell you about some Tang. So yeah, you know, these are things that we must understand. To die for your responses, by the way. I'm very happy that I'm not the only one in here to know about some Kool-Aid. Yeah, so, but I think that's important to understand is that, you know, we're concerning ourselves, and a lot of our energy is important, by the way. A lot of our energy is just unused and focused on things that have no concern, you see, no relevance to our daily life and how we're going to become better luminous in the nations that we're in. To illuminate, be that beacon for these great shepherd nations that we're in. But at the same time, what many people are hurting. There's a lot of people that have hurt, psychological, physical, mental. They're just hurting people, and people that are just like, I see it as people that. It almost reminds me of these zombie movies. My daughter, she's always telling me, she's like, Dad, I'm dreaming about zombies. I was like, really? I was like, oh, that's awesome. She's like, wait a minute. She's looking at me. She's like, oh, wait. She's like, you're not supposed to say that's awesome that I'm dreaming about zombies. I said, no, that's awesome. I said, well, what do the zombies do? What are they doing? She said, I said, what are they doing? She said, they're smiling at me. Oh, I said, wow, that's awesome. You having dreams about good zombies, smiling zombies, friendly zombies. That's so awesome. But it's like these zombie movies, man. And my daughter, she's just like, my goodness, I'm just like so opening up and expanding her brain. Because we talked about rote and we talked about robots. Well, my daughter's Chinese. She come from China. And so this is what they understand. They're brought up, and they're all these children, they're taught to be like robots. You do the same thing, da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da. And now she's in America, and now she sees the world is her oyster, Miss Bahar, and it's a beautiful thing. And she understands that she's not a robot, and that she can think outside of the box, and that zombies don't have to be bad things. Her zombie was smiling, very happy. But I see the world's like, you know, these zombie movies. These people just walking around. They're just walking around, and there's no life to them. And all their thought process is about, you know, how I'm going to pay the next bill, how am I going to do this, blah, 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 blah. And everything is, you know, disaster, depression, anxiety. So, this is why you're so important, you and I, is that we can live our life in such a way that people are drawn to it because it's different from what they see and what they're used to, and it's different from what they're doing. You see, because most of the time, people are going to be drawn to you by what you do and what you don't do. You see, you're not doing what they do. This is why you're seen as like this, you know, pariah. Wait a minute. This situation is going on, and everybody over here is doing this, but yet you are over here doing this. You see? You're bringing in the difference factor, and that's so awesome. And all of you are doing it on some kind of level. Well, Rabbi, I don't see that. Well, you just stay tuned, because one day you will. And it may be this coming up 6 days later. Somebody's going to come to you and say, you know what? I've really been watching you. I've been watching what you do. And you're different. Oh, man. Pat yourself on the back. Congratulate yourself. But in the meantime, just keep doing. In the meantime, Miss Paul, just keep doing. We are going to make this world a better place. But let's balance this out at the end of the day. At the same time, not everybody's going to want to be happy. Some people just love being sad. Not everybody's going to want to be friendly. Some people just love being angry, and you got to leave them to it, right? You're just here to be, your doors are just open. You're not forcing people to come into your house. Abraham never forced people to come into his house, but his doors were just open. You don't need to force anybody to do anything that they don't want to do. Let them create their world. It's a beautiful thing when you sit back and you watch how reality and how humanity creates. It's beautiful. Sometimes you just have to sit back in your lazy boy chair, pop the popcorn, and just watch it happen. You don't need to intervene. That was a great lesson for me this week in dealing with my father. Everybody want to tell my father what he needs to do. And I just sat back as the oldest son, the oldest of 5, and I let my father create his situation. Why am I going to try to go in and intervene? My Bible, my books tell me that I'm to respect my parents, to honor my father, and to honor my mother. I'm not in there to go be a dictator. Why? It's because my father's reached a certain age, he can't make his own decisions. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that, Miss Bahar. I got to sit back and let my father create. And Mohama told me this week. I tell you, it was revelation. And I sat there and watched it happen. And sure enough, my father created his situation that he wanted, not what I wanted. And thank God, my sister's finally learning that as well. She's finally learning. She's getting it. Because she thinks, she has to be mother hen to everyone. Oh, yeah, we got to do this for daddy. We got to do this. We got to do that. I said, no. I told her a long time ago, I said, sis, pump the brakes. You have to let Pop do what he wants to do. I said, well, what does Pop want to do? You've given us all these scenarios, but at the end of the day, what does our father want to do? Well, we need to do this. We need to do that. We need to put him in this home and this home. I said, hold up, wait a minute. Pump the brakes. What does our father want to do? Let him create. Let him create his situation. And sure enough, Mishpahah, my father created his situation that was optimal and abundant for him and his thinking. You see, what's abundant for me may not be abundant for you. What's abundant for you may not be abundant for me. So be it. But he created his optimal situation. It's comfortable for him, conducive for his way of life and how he wants to live his life. I'm not trying to go and change how people want to live their life. And all of you need to understand this. You need to stop trying to do that. You have your doors open like Abraham, and yet you're trying to force everybody and their mama into your doors. Hey, sit down, eat this food. Sit down, here, let's talk, blah, blah, blah. Some people don't want to talk to you. Some people happy just with themselves. They're antisocial. They just want to go home and play video games and be happy. You leave these people to it. You're not here to change the world. You're just here to be a light. Anywhere in our books that we're told to change the world? Does it say that anywhere in our books? Please help me, Ms. Bahar. Does it say anywhere in our books that we're here to change the world? That we're here to, that the children of Israel have been put on this earth to change the world? No, we're told to be lights to the nation. Just to be a light. Not to go forcing people to do anything. Just be a light. A light just does. Just go out and do. Go out and live your life. Live it the right way, as you've been instructed to by our books. As the Creator left instruction books for us, you see. And then those that are drawn to the light, food for God, then those are the ones. And you say, okay, come on in. Come on in. Sit down and eat with me, if you like. You see? But light don't force itself on anything. Light just does. Baruch Hashem, Master Jesus of Nazareth. Light just does. It just does. Those that like to come to the light will come. Some people don't like to. How many of you know? Some people don't like to come to the light. Some animals don't like to come to the light. They only come out at night. I mean, that's just the way it is. And you leave them to it. And you say best endeavors. And you leave these kind of individuals to it. Because at the end of the day, you're not here to save the world. You must understand that. You're just here to be that beacon, that light. You're just here to shine. That's all. Why are we making it so complex and difficult for ourselves? It's because we've been mistaught. We've been misinstructed. And then that makes us, we're misunderstood. Not trying to do that. You can't misunderstand light. It just shines, baby. And Baruch Hashem, Master Jesus of Nazareth, it just shines, you see. Baruch Hashem. People of God saying, you're saying our ultimate goal is not to save them. You're absolutely right. That's not our ultimate goal. I'm not God. I didn't stay at a Holiday Inn last night, and I don't proclaim to be God. Don't put me in nobody's judgment seat. I'm not going to be the judge of who's saved and who's not. That's God's role. My role is just to be a light. Just to be a light, Mishpahah. You see? Just to be a light. That's all I have to do. Whether a man receives redemption or salvation or not, that's on them. You see, I'm not trying to prove myself by a man's standard according to what man thinks God says. I'm trying to prove my standard by what does God say according to God. And he tells me to love my neighbor as I love myself. Okay, I can do that. I can shine, baby. He says to shine. He says to, show compassion and love and kindness to all people. I can do that. Not be judgmental. I can do that. To live a life of abundance and not division. I can do that. To live a life that's being multiplied and not a life that's dividing. I can do that. You see? But we've been conditioned and we've been mistaught for so many years. Oh, you have to do things this way. This is how you do it. No, this is how God wants you to do it. This is blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. You see? And before you know it, what happens? You find that light that you thought you had, nobody's drawn to it. You don't have a single person going to it. So if nobody recognizes your light, what does that mean? You may be in darkness yourself. I mean, there may not be any kind of flicker to your light. You may not even have light. Maybe you're in darkness. My goodness. Yah forbid. So we must understand that going forward. We must understand that going forward. The Master Yeshua, Jesus of Nazareth himself, what did he say? He said, verily, verily, not everyone that says, Lord, Lord, is going to enter the kingdom of the most highest of heavens. But he said that he that does the will of my Abba, the will of my Father. That's the gold standard. Not running around here trying to save people. Jesus of Nazareth didn't even do that. Run around he didn't try to save nobody. It was the will of the Abba. He just lived, he just shined, he was light. And people came to him. He didn't go to nobody. People came to him. Then that's where, my goodness, that's when the doors were open for them. Because they came. He didn't have to go hunt them down. No, they came to him, you see. They came to him. They came to him, Mishpahah. So I think that's so very important to understand. So very important. So very important. He said he came to save the world. No, he didn't. If you go read what Jesus of Nazareth said, he said, I came not but for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. You better go read it. He said, I came not but for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. He came for those lost sheep. He was the shepherd, just to bring the sheep back. He just came to bring the sheep back into the fold. He said, I'm the shepherd. I'm here. So I think it's important for us to understand that. Very, very important. We can't take the Master's words and just, misconstrue them and make them into something that they're not. You see? So again, that's important to understand. It's very, very important to understand. You see, so Baruch Hashem, Master Jesus of Nazareth. We'll get into HaKohen's lecture now, and it's recorded because again, the Kohen is in travels. He's traveling in the Middle East, and his lecture was recorded. For those of you who may have came in late, his lecture, son of Aaron, his lecture was recorded, and I'm going to play it here in just a minute going forward. But I think it's important for us to understand. I think it's very, very important for us to understand. Very, very important for us to understand and get proper connotation, proper instruction, and really understand and ask yourself this question. Who are you listening to? You see? Are you listening to people with, that are just going to tell you something based on what God said according to man? Or what did God say according to God? That's what's important to understand. And if you're here in this room, this is where you're going to get what God said according to God. And it's not going to be twisted or tainted in any kind of way. You're going to get it. And whether you accept it or not, then that's going to be on you going forward. That's what's important to understand. So, on that note, I'm going to fire up HaKohen's lecture. If any of you have any issues hearing the lecture of HaKohen is recorded, please put up a 1. Maybe it's too loud, too low. Just let me know, and I can make some adjustments on this end. No problem. Okay. So we're gonna fire up HaKohen's lecture here. Here we go. Let me cue it up here.
Mishpacha. This is Rabbi Simon Alta, and I'm going to record this particular lecture because I happen to be in the east right now, right next to the border of Afghanistan, if you want to know precisely where. And the thing is that the internet over here is not very great. It's it comes and goes. So I decided best to record this, and so I'll send it to Rabbi Kefa. He can play it on the Shabbat. So this is being recorded a day earlier, just to facilitate. I guess time difference between us is about a day anyway. So first of all, our joke is regarding forgiveness, and the lecture will also be regarding forgiveness, and the lecture will also focus on the Parsha RSAHK, which we will look at, or Chai Sera, we'll look at in at least some detail, if not extreme detail. There was a man standing before a judge in California for shooting a condor. This is a protected bird, and people who kill them must pay the consequences. The man pleaded with the judge by saying, I just arrived in this state and I've never seen a bird that large before. I was hungry and could not help myself to shoot and eat it. The judge said, I forgive you, just don't let it happen again. The man replied, yes sir. The judge, curious about the bird, asked the man, how did it taste? The man replied, oh, I guess somewhere between a whooping crane and a spotted owl. Okay, so another notice was that somebody told me that if you go to this link, read.amazon.com, which is http://read, read.amazon.com. All the titles that you purchase regarding the Hidden Truths Hebraic Scrolls or any books, if you purchase those titles, you can view them from this little reader that Amazon gives you. Now, I was told that this is a cloud web-based reader, and within the Bible, or the book for argument's sake, if you went to a chapter of the Bible, the Hidden Truths Hebraic Scrolls, New Testament or Old Testament or the complete Bible, you'll be able to pick up a word, and if you're not sure about the word's meaning, now we're not talking about Hebrew words, we're talking about English words only, then it will be able to give you the meanings of those words. It has a special feature in which you select a word and then you click on it, and then it gives you the meaning of those words, alternative meanings or different meanings, like for instance, perhaps offspring. I guess if you picked a word that was saying offspring in the scriptures, and you clicked on it, and you wanted to know additional meanings, then it will tell you that offspring means children, and other, kind of labels or synonyms that are attached to that word. And you're also allowed to highlight, highlight words, I guess maybe paragraphs as yellow, and then you can go back to them and read them over and over. So if there was a particular passage that you wanted to mark so you don't forget it, like a bookmark, you can mark them with the yellow, with the yellow highlighter, and what it does is it saves those, and then it changes their color from the normal reading color of the text, and you can go back and you can look at those again if you need to in the future. So it kind of saves it for you, which I thought is a great little feature. So that's the reader on Amazon.com, under read.amazon.com. If you are into purchasing the Kindle titles for, if you find that easier to maintain than a paper copy, then that's the way you do that. Or I guess the alternative is that you download the Amazon Kindle Reader on your laptop or device, phone device or iPad, etc. Then you can just read it locally. That's the other alternative. Now the testimony I want to give a testimony, because this is very important that I give thanks to the Abba Yahweh and to the Master Yeshua, Jesus of Nazareth, because I made two people witness to this. And this is incredible. Now I want to say from the beginning, this thing that happened is the most incredible thing that just occurred. As I landed in Pakistan, and as I traveled to the north, this thing just happened. I guess I had to come for that, and I had to be in here for this, for me to hear this news. So there was this lady called Asia Bibi in Pakistan. 2 weeks ago, I kind of was perusing the net, and I came across her testimony or her, life story, that she was imprisoned about 9 to 10 years ago in a Pakistani jail, and the charges that were brought to her were that she committed blasphemy against the Prophet of Islam. And so I thought about it, and I read her little story, and said that she had an argument with some women in a village over a glass of water, that she drank a glass of water and they told her that this glass is now defiled and we're not going to drink from it. So these were Muslim ladies, and so this erupted into an argument. And these were just ladies picking fruit. They were fruit pickers, like people pick fruits in California, I guess. So these were all fruit pickers, and they then alleged that Asia Bibi had insulted the Prophet. Now, from what I read earlier, is that Asia Bibi had simply said, "What has your Prophet done for the world?" or something to that effect. And they, took that as blasphemy. They went and told their local clerics. The local clerics came with a mob, and the mob kind of ransacked the home, beat the husband up, took the woman, took them to the police station, and this woman has been in the police custody in a prison cell. Most of her life has been spent in solitary confinement. So, it was a terrible injustice. I was reading about it a couple of weeks ago. It was terrible injustice. I was very sad to read it. And I decided at that time, out of, love and compassion for this woman, I decided that I'm going to lift her up in prayer, and I'm going to make a request to the Abba in the heavens for her release, and not just a release, for her to be, taken out of this country, because her life is in danger over here, even when she's released. So I then made a witness. I made two people witness to this event, because I wanted to show them the power that a Kohen has versus the power of all the Christians in Pakistan who actually been praying for her for 10 years now, and nothing had happened. Nothing happened. She wasn't released. No one even budged. So I wanted to just demonstrate that the difference between ordinary people praying and a priest of the Most High God praying, what is the difference of the two scenarios? And so what happened was that I made as I said, 2 people witnesses, and I told them that I'm going to do this, and this is my intention, and you are a witness to this. So that just so that you know, and I'm not going to specify a time when this will happen, but I'm just making you aware, and they don't even know who this woman is. I mean, I guess one of them did know it, and the other one didn't know it. So I come over here, so I lifted it up in prayer. I come over here, and I have now just arrived, like a couple of days back, I arrived, and I guess it was the day I arrived, and I happened to read the news as I landed, and I read in the evening that this woman had a major court hearing, and I was completely unaware of that court hearing, and it said to the effect of that all 3 Supreme High Court judges here have overturned her sentence and said that this woman is free to go. So Baruch Hashem, Master Yahweh, for this amazing, amazing miracle. I tell you, this is amazing. And not only is it amazing, but what I said earlier, that this woman's life will be in danger. As soon as they release this verdict, some of the radical groups in the country, they started to march, protest, and do the things that they do, like to start to block roads and things like that, and they wanted to kill the 3 Supreme Court judges. The Prime Minister had to come online on TV and announce to the people that they need to stop doing this, because all they are doing is they are blocking the livelihood of people that live in the country, Pakistanis of course, and they were saying that they are blocking their livelihood by blocking roads and causing people to shut their shops because they are in fear. And they were saying that some extremist groups, for sake of political agendas, are doing this. These are the hardliners here. So as I was saying, the Prime Minister then made a news broadcast, a TV broadcast, and told the people to be calm and respect the institutions that are built in this country for law and order. And he told the people that if you're going to behave like this every time a decision has been made in the court, that is not the way to run a country. No government can run a country where the people start to attack the courts. And it was only the hardliners that had done this, trying to attack the government and stopping people from making their daily living. And I was told, I just had to go out, and I was told that apparently yesterday here where I am, there was a big protest, and my relatives here were telling me that they had trouble. They usually there is their relatives where they live, they usually takes about half an hour's drive to get there. And they were telling me that yesterday, because of these people protesting here as well in this city, they're saying it took them 3 hours for the same journey that takes half an hour. It was that bad. The roads were kind of blocked, jammed up and all that. See, this is the kind of attitude that these hardliners have over here. They don't seem to care about law and order. They don't seem to care about people's feelings. They don't care if they hurt somebody. They don't care if anybody, is deserving, or whether they should be humble and, give people a right to their opinion. These kind of things, you see, this is what I call fascism. This is a fascism that unfortunately is present in some elements of the people over here in their faith. And not everybody is like that. Majority of the people are not like that, which is a good thing. But some of these people are like that. And then, it becomes difficult. So I think the judges, when they gave the verdict of not guilty for that woman, they also quoted a tradition of the Islamic faith, saying to the people that their prophet told the people, the Muslim people, that they should be kind to those that don't follow Islam. But of course, here, these hardliners want to force people into submission. They don't care about kindness. They don't understand what the word kindness means. So I guess that's what's going on down here. So that was my brief testimony. But then I want to give you testimony of the Master Yahweh on my route in to this country, and I want to tell you the favor that God gave me was amazing. because I was standing in Chicago at the airport, and there was a regular queue, economy class, and there was a business class was virtually empty. There was nobody there. And as I was standing there, moving up the queue, to go to the economy class, the guy standing at the business class, or just before the business class, he said to me, he pointed to me, he said, "You come over here, sir, to the business class, and we'll check you in over here." So I got checked into the business class, Baruch Hashem for that, and then, I made my way to the plane. I had great favor on the way, coming into via Dubai, and Dubai then over here. And when I came over here, I had a need to I tried to get a local SIM card, like a phone SIM. And what they do these days, they make you, give them your ID card, and you have to, give them your thumb impression, fingerprint, to make sure that it is you who's purchasing the card and not somebody else. The laws are now a little bit strict over here, trying to make the people compliant so that no, phones are not used for criminal events, things of that nature. So as I was trying to get my card, my fingerprints wouldn't register with the phone. So then the guy said to me, "Why don't you go to the local office, ID card office, and get your fingerprints re-registered, because, obviously you're going to have trouble over here doing this if you don't do that." I said, "That's fine." So I decided to go to the office. Now let me tell you about this office that, usually where the ID cards are made. These offices here are so corrupt that you cannot get anything done over there without paying money. And, the queues are horrendous. You could end up waiting in an office for half a day to get a small job done. So, reluctantly I thought, my goodness, these people, well, I'm going to have to go. And, went in, decided to go in. I was standing there in the queue, got my little token, that gives you the right to then see an agent, and then the agent will do the rest. Listen to this. This is unheard of. I have never seen it in my life, and I haven't heard from anybody who had this kind of favor. I go in and get my token. I go into the place where you're supposed to sit down and wait, and guess what? There's about 15 people waiting there ahead of me. Obviously whose turn was ahead of me. I sit there. I just about sit on the chair, and my name gets called out. I go and see the attendant, and the attendant says, he asks me something, and I say, no, and then he shakes hands with me, and he starts processing my case. And it turns out the guy is from England. So we start talking back and forth about England. He starts asking me about places in London. I start telling him, and he tells me where he's from in England. He's from Bradford, etc. And so it was kind of interesting that, I kind of jumped the queue, which has never happened. In this country, you can forget about jumping the queue. You can only jump the queue if you have some really high up connection, obviously. What could be a better connection than the God of Israel? So, Baruch Hashem, Master Yeshua for that. What an amazing, amazing thing. I got there, the guy stamped my card, it took my fingerprints, took a new picture and everything. And you know what? He gave me the highest priority in the office. He put executive priority on my application. Can you imagine that? Everybody else is going around with normal priority, and he puts executive priority on mine and sends me away. And it doesn't charge me no money. Everybody that goes into that office has to pay money. Even to acquire a token, there was a small charge. But these people don't charge me. And then he puts a zero on the balance, saying that I owe zero. And so I go to the next office, which is within the same building, and the next man goes to me. He goes to me that, didn't the previous man charge you? I said, no. So he looks at the zero balance. He says, okay. He said, you're obviously English-speaking guy, aren't you? You're not from here. I said, no, I'm not from here. Yes, I am English-speaking. That is presently my native tongue. So it was kind of funny. He looked at me and started smiling. He asked me a couple of questions. Then he said, okay, you can go. And that was, the kind of favor that I was getting over here. My card is now going to be processed in the capital of Pakistan, and it was returned within 10 days. That's what the gentleman told me. So Baruch Hashem for that. What a great, great, amazing favor. Then I hear the news of this lady being freed. I was so happy and delighted. I was absolutely elated, when I heard that. I thought, my goodness, isn't that what I came for over here? Isn't that what I came for? That is exactly what I came for. And Baruch Hashem, that task is taken care of. So I guess apart from that the other thing is this: that our Parsha today is Chai Sarah, which is Book of Genesis, chapters 23, 1 to 25 to 18. And if we kind of look at that and have a little perusal of that, and this talks about Sarah, chapter 23, verse 1. Sarah lived 127 years. These were the years of the life of Sarah. So Sarah died in Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron, in the land of Canaan, and Abraham came to mourn for Sarah and to weep for her. Then Abraham stood up from before his dead and spoke to the sons of Checkup, saying, I'm a foreigner and a sojourner among you. Give me property for a burial place among you, that I may bury my dead out of my sight. And the sons of Checkup answered Abraham, saying to him, Hear us, my master, you are a prince of Elohim among us. Bury your dead in the choicest of our burial places. None of us will withhold from you his burial place, that you may bury your dead. Then Abraham stood up and bowed himself to the people of the land and the sons of Checkup, and he spoke with them, saying, If it is your wish that I bury my dead out of my sight, hear me, and meet with Ephron, the son of Zohar, for me, that he may give me the cave of Machpelah, or Machpelah, which he has, which is at the end of his field. Let him give it to me at the full price as property for a burial place among you. Now clearly from this we can see a number of things are happening over here. Number one, that Abraham wasn't in town, because it says that Sarah lived 127 years. These were the years of the life of Sarah. So Sarah died in Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron, in the land of Canaan. And Abraham came to mourn for Sarah. So where did Abraham came from? Obviously he wasn't living with his wife Sarah at the time. He was away. Potentially he was away with his other wife in the south, which we know is Keturah. Also we note from this that, did you notice in this reading, normally when it finishes somebody's life, it usually says that these were the years of such and such person, they lived a full life, or something to that effect. It doesn't say that about Sarah. It doesn't say that Sarah lived a full life, which means what? Which means that Sarah died before the years of her sojourn on this earth. In other words, Sarah could have potentially lived for maybe another 15, 20, 30 years, but she didn't. Why is that? Well, we have our traditions, and our traditions tell us that Satan came to Sarah disguised in a man form. And when he came to Sarah, he spoke to her and told her that your husband Abraham, he's taking your son Isaac, and he is going to sacrifice him before God on such and such mountain. Sarah at this point became really upset, heartbroken, and very, very worried of this son that she had to wait for so long with her husband was now going to be put to death on the orders of God. Obviously she didn't understand that, but she was obviously very, very upset. And by the way, that is what took Sarah's life. Sarah's life was lost as a result of Satan appearing before her and telling her that your son is going to die. So let's call that a false report. Why? Because yes, Abraham was going to take Sarah's son, but he wasn't going to die. Satan knew that. Abraham even believed in that, but Sarah was kept from this secret, because in order to protect Sarah, to protect her sanity, and to protect her from being heartbroken, that she would have objected. If Abraham had told her, she would have objected to it. Maybe she would have had a big fight with him, and Abraham would have had difficulty in then procuring his son from her and taking him. So we can clearly see that in this story, Sarah did not know where Abraham had taken Isaac, because she wasn't told. So what does this teach us? It teaches us a number of lessons. First lesson it teaches us is that we should not be communicating everything to our wives. There are certain things that can be communicated to the wives, and there are other things that should not be communicated at the time. Maybe later down the road you can, but at the time they should not be, because they may cause more pain than happiness. This is one thing that we see in our patriarch, our forefather Abraham. He wanted to protect the sanity of his wife, he wanted to protect the peace of his home, and he wanted to protect her happiness. That's why he didn't tell her. And Sarah died prematurely, didn't live her full years of her life, because a piece of slander spoken by Satan, which was a kind of a mistruth, took her life. Because after he told her this, Sarah was no longer the same person a minute ago. So again, a lesson for everybody here. There are certain things, I'm not saying that you hide things from your wives. I'm saying that there are certain matters that need to be kept private, at least for the duration of a short period of time, until you feel it's the right time to tell your wife, because women are very delicate. As I've learned in my life, as Rabbi Kefa has learned as well, women are so very delicate that if you say something to a woman and she doesn't like it, they can go into depression, they can go into tension, they can have headaches, they can have all sorts of problems, because naturally, like men, and men are slightly less prone to it, but women are more prone to it. Women are very sensitive, and they can become upset very easily. And it becomes difficult then to convince them, because it takes time to convince them. And one of the things that I've learned in my own life is that if you have a fight with your spouse, with your wife, and a husband has a fight, a husband needs to be very careful what words he speaks to her, because in anger we can be like sailors. We can have sailor's tongue and say all sorts of bad words, but at the end of that session, you don't know how much you hurt the other person. In other words, you may end up hurting the woman a lot more than the woman hurts you. The woman might use sailor's tongue also, but the man will be hurt less by that sailor's tongue. A woman will be hurt a lot more. So caution needs to be exercised, because the words we speak, we can give life to the person, or we can give death to the person. It's very, very imperative. You may just take this as a mild statement, but I'll tell you, it's so very imperative that we need to be very careful how we handle our wives. We need to be mindful that they are human beings, and we need to be also mindful that they are very sensitive. And what I have learned is that even if your wife has made a mistake, and I've done this in the past, I put my hands up first, I'm guilty of this, that I spoke first, I accused first, and then I realized later that the accusation was wrong, the information I had was inaccurate, and the decision I made was totally not correct. So I learned that I should never do that. Everything we do in our life needs to be measured by love, and love should be the yardstick we use to make a conscious decision for and against our spouses. Now I use the word conscious decision, meaning we should never judge our wives, period. Now, we should remember the voice of the Master Jesus of Nazareth, who told us, "Judge not, lest ye be judged." Let us not judge our own family members, the people we love, the people we call our own, these ladies who are our wives, these ladies who potentially have or will give birth to our children. I think that they deserve respect. It's so very, very critical. They deserve respect, because if you go and say something to them in anger, and later it proves that you were wrong and they were right, it's such an embarrassment. I tell you, I've been through that in my life, and I was so embarrassed, and I didn't know what to say. But of course, I had to go back and apologize, and I had to apologize to my Aisha. The point is this, that I'm giving you what happened to me, that you don't repeat it. You don't go into that sometimes we men, we go guns blazing, that we don't really care, and we're going to say this, and we're going to put her down, and we're going to say, I'm bigger than you, or I'm better than you. Let us not do that, my family. Let us not ever do that again, because let us learn to live in peace. And if there is doubt, and doubts will come. If there is doubt in your head that your wife is doing something wrong, then my suggestion is this, to put this before the throne room of God. Let God be the judge. Who is done wrong? But you should always try your best. And I know it's difficult sometimes, it's very difficult. You and me both, and I speak for myself as well, that we need to do our best to show love and judge with love, which means that if we're going to judge with love, we cannot condemn, we cannot swear, we cannot use sailor tongue. All those things need to be dropped. And I see in this story of Sarah that, in which a few words that were spoken by Hasatan, Satan's speech, had killed Sarah. See, this is why it's very important. What we speak can give life, and what we speak can take life. Also, I personally have, met people or know people that can constantly speak negatively. They constantly put themselves down, or they put other people down, or they speak negatively, period. That is the worst thing you can do for yourself. You should never do that. Because when you speak negatively about yourself, you will become that person. What you think, you will become. So try to always speak positive tone, positive words about yourself and about others. Don't, speak negatively. Don't put yourself down unnecessarily. Don't put yourself down, period. Why should you put yourself down? God has created you, given you life, and here is my suggestion. This is very important for your well-being. Every day, as I spoke to you before a number of times, I said, every day when you go to bed, you remove all negativity, you remove all offense, and you seek forgiveness that day from God. Anything you made a mistake in, seek forgiveness from Him first, and then of course go to the person you wronged as well. It may be the vice versa. Maybe you may have to go to the person first and then go to God. But either way, you need to do these three things. Secondly, you need to give thanks for everything you have. Give thanks for your life, give thanks for your health, give thanks for your material blessings, give thanks to God every night. And when you wake up in the morning, every morning, start your day with giving thanks. Give thanks to God for your life, give thanks for giving you another day to live, give thanks for your health, give thanks for your wealth, give thanks for your family, give thanks for everything. Give thanks, period. When you start your day, when you end your day by doing what I told you, you will have a peaceful sleep. When you wake up and you do what I told you, you will have a great day ahead. So we must never start today bitterness, angry, upset, offended. We must not do that, because these things will take our joy away from us. And we serve the God of Israel. We serve the most powerful entity that we know that exists, that nothing is bigger or greater than that person that we represent and we serve. So we need to always remember that. Always remember who you serve. Who is your Father? Who is your Master? Always remember that and you will do well. So with that, I wanted to take you to the words of our Master Jesus, Lord Jesus. And with that, there's a chapter in Mark chapter 11, verses 24-25. I wanted to take you to there. So maybe I could give you a little bit of, wisdom from there. It says, "Therefore I say to you, whatever things you desire, when you petition, believe that you receive them and you shall have them. And when you stand petitioning, forgive. If you have anything against any, that your Abba also which is in the Shemaim may forgive you your trespasses. But if you do not forgive, neither will your Abba which is in the Shemaim forgive your trespasses." Now, you see, we can't just take one verse to say that I can desire things, I can desire a car, I can desire a house, and God will give me the house. Sure, He will give me the house, no problem. Me or you in this case. You pray for it, you believe in it, and God will give you the house. Now, but before that house comes, there is another prerequisite. I think we forget the prerequisite. The prerequisite is this, that you forgive anybody. It says forgive people who have done you wrong. Now, why did it go to mention forgiveness? Because it could have just, we could have just had that verse not there. Simply, just, it could have just ended with whatever you ask for your Abba, He'll give it to you, and that's the end of that, right? But then verse 25 and 26 of Mark chapter 11 seem kind of extraneous, extra verses, which actually make a point when you stand to pray, forgive. In other words, before you stand to ask for something for yourself, you must have forgiveness for everybody before you come for yourself. What does that mean? How does that apply to us? Well, put it this way. If I stand, let's say that I stand as a person asking for something. Let's say I needed a car. And I stand before God and say, please give me a car. And at the same time, somebody has offended me and I have bitterness in my heart for that person. So, what does that do? You could have, you could be asking for something from God on the one hand, and you are holding bitterness in the other hand. How does that work? Well, I'll tell you what. It blocks our connection to the infinite intelligence. So when your mind, when you go to bed at night and your mind is working, your rational mind and your subconscious mind, and your subconscious mind is what is responsible to reach out to the infinite wisdom, infinite intelligence. Now when I use the words infinite wisdom, infinite intelligence, I am referring to the person we know as God. This is not some, mumbo jumbo kind of thing. So the only way we can reach God is when we have no trespass within us. In other words, we mustn't be withholding forgiveness. We mustn't have a negative attitude. We mustn't have a downcast appearance, because these are the things that will hinder you from achieving that which you are desiring. If you are desiring a car and you are having forgiveness issues with other people that wronged you, you will not get your car. Let me just be very, very point blank. You're not going to get your car. Why? Because you're withholding forgiveness from somebody else. You cannot push out a positive and a negative wave. You can't do that. Our bodies, if our bodies were to emit a wave, let's just use a term of a radio or a satellite. If we emit the term, if we emit a wave, a positive wave or a vibe, you call it vibe as well, I guess. A positive vibe, then at the same time we emit a negative vibe, one cancels the other. When you emit your positive wave, your negative wave will cancel out the positive. You will not be able to tap into what I can only describe as the infinite intelligence, meaning God. You will not be able to ascend to God in your dreams or in your visions. God will not permit that. God cannot permit for us to come with these two different, contradictory waves. So our wave has to be one, positive only. Can't have a positive and negative. This is why our scriptures tell us that, first of all, our scriptures tell us that do not be hateful to your brother. Torah goes to tell us, do not hate your brother. It's not permitted. Secondly, the Torah and the New Testament tells us, of course, forgiveness. That we are to go seek forgiveness. Remember, Yom Kippur is all about forgiveness. Not just for us, but for the people who wronged us, etc. Or for the people we wronged, we have to seek forgiveness from them. So this is why this is so very important, and I think this concept is preventing so many people in this world today are unhappy, they are in depression mode, they are suffering because of this. I know so many people personally that are suffering because they are withholding forgiveness, or they have done something wrong and they are refusing to go to the other person and seek forgiveness. For that very reason, they have stopped their progress. They can no longer progress in their lives. Guess why? Because of this very act. Because they refuse to forgive and they refuse to seek forgiveness. Now imagine if this person, whoever this person is, male or female, if they are so hard-hearted, and it could be a spouse, it could be that your wife did something wrong to you, or it could be that your husband did something wrong to you, and the party that did wrong refuses to come before you and say, look, I made a mistake, I'm sorry, please forgive me, because I realized after I made the mistake that I was wrong, and perhaps I overstepped my boundaries. But you see, human pride, ego, these are the issues, because they come in our way, and then we can't seem to function. And this is why Sarah, let me tell you why Sarah died. And you can call it a conjecture, you can call it an opinion, you can call it whatever you like. Sarah died with forgiveness, with the holding forgiveness. We don't know. I can't be certain if Sarah was mad when she heard from Satan that Abraham had killed her son. Sarah was at that time, bowling. She was like mad at Abraham, very, very angry at Abraham that somehow Abraham did not tell her the truth and took her son away. Mad at him, crazy at him. Why did he do that? So she was withholding forgiveness, right? And what was the end result? Sarah died. So my point, don't withhold forgiveness. Don't ever do that. Because maybe before Sarah died, we don't know exactly time period between Sarah knowing and Sarah dying. We don't know exactly how many days had gone. We know it wasn't one day. We know it was more than a day. So it could be before Sarah hit her deathbed that she did forgive her husband Abraham before she died. But we are not certain of that. I'll just tell you that. Reason being, because if Sarah died in peace, then we would have had in the scripture that Sarah died a full life. But Sarah did not die in peace. Sarah died in bitterness. Sarah died in agony. And that, unfortunately, is the story of our matriarch, based on a partial half-truth that came from Satan. So be very wary. If you have people around you who claim to be coming to tell you the truth about this person and that person, all they are doing is slander. Because Satan also did that slander. Likewise, anybody in this world who goes to slander is following in the pattern of Satan. And I say it again, anyone in this world, I don't care what they call themselves, Christian, Muslim, Hindu, Jew, whatever they want to call themselves, if you are going to do slander against another person, even if you claim is truth, that is still slander. That person is following in the footsteps of Satan, not in the footsteps of Jesus of Nazareth. So be very wary of this, and don't ever join such people to become, one with them and try to team up against somebody else. This is why I explained to you, judge not. Remember this axiom. Remember this scripture. Judge not, lest ye be judged. If you follow this, I guarantee you that you will live a blessed, a free, a fulfilling life. I guarantee you that, if you follow that scripture. And if you measure everything with love, not with hate. We cannot measure with hate. We must measure with love. If you measure with love, I guarantee you that you will be successful in your life. You will have beautiful relations. You will have prolonged relations. You will live a happy and healthy life. I think that is absolutely key, that God wants us to be happy. God wants us to live a happy life. And God wants everything for us. You see, when Abraham was advanced in his age. In chapter 24 we are told, now Abraham was old, well advanced in age, and Yahweh had increased Abraham in all things. Now, of course, at this time, as you know, that Abraham wanted to marry his son. He speaks to Eliezer and he tells him to go and look for my son's wife. And we know that he sends him off, and then the story of Rebecca starts, where he goes to find her in the northern, or rather in the region of Iraq, and he brings Rebecca back to Isaac. And so therefore it is quite imperative that we understand this, that Rebecca then becomes the wife of Isaac. And in verse 67 it tells us that Yitzhak, Isaac brought her into his mother Sarah's tent, and he took Rivkah, that's Rebecca, and she became his wife, and he loved her. So Yitzhak was comforted after his mother's death. And at this point, chapter 25 verse 1 tells us, and henceforth Abraham continued with his wife, and her name was Keturah. Now Keturah, by the way, is not Hagar. The incorrect and false teachings of Judaism teach that Keturah and Hagar are the same. They are not the same. These are two different women altogether. And Keturah had given birth to around 6 sons and daughters for Abraham. And by the way, they were all before Ishmael. They were all born before Ishmael and before Isaac as well, I guess. Or Isaac may have been born partially, and some of the sons were born during that time. But Ishmael was definitely not around when these 6 sons were born. So this is a wife, Keturah, that descended from Yoktan, who is also known in the Arabic as Kaftan. And that's another thing that we learn in this passage, that you know, how the children are born and how they succeed their parents, etc. And then, as you know, that the different passages, you know, they continue, and they then start the life story of Isaac, and then Isaac's children, meaning Jacob and Esau, who are then subsequently born, and the two then start their life cycle. And then God comes to Isaac and tells him that his covenant is with him, and then from there the covenant passes from Isaac to Jacob. And we see the story then later continues with Jacob as the person through whom the 12 tribes descended. And we know that through the 12 tribes they took on the name Israel, as Jacob's name was changed to Israel as well. And I believe that there is, you know, important implications in this, because one of the questions that I used to ask in the old days was, why does God call Jacob in many passages? Then why does he call him Israel in some passages? So some passages, as you note, you know, he was called Jacob, you know, after he was renamed. So after he was renamed to Israel, then he's called Jacob still in some passages. And I was like, why is he called Jacob still? Why not call him, you know, Israel? Because God has changed his name. And the reason for that is which I came to understand later, was that Jacob, for all practical purposes, was when he was being called Jacob and not Israel, then he wasn't really spiritually all there, so to speak. So in other words, when he acted more in the flesh, he was Jacob. When he acted more in the spirit, he was Israel. And I would like to say, you know, as I was giving you that point earlier, in Genesis chapter 25 verses 8, you will note, if I go back to Genesis 25:8, you do see what I was trying to explain to you earlier, that it says, and Abraham breathed his last and died in a good old age, an old man and full of years, and was gathered to his people. Note that these such words were not used for Sarah. Sarah doesn't say died a good old age, doesn't say she was full of years, and doesn't say she was gathered to her people. Neither of those things are present. Okay, so what do we read into this? First of all, as I explained to you earlier, that Sarah died bitter, a bitter woman, because she was very bitter with Abraham, that somehow Abraham sinned against her and took her son away and tried to kill him. So that's my point, is that certain things have to be maintained status quo, because we can't tell everything to the ladies, because sometimes they will take it the wrong way and it will create all sorts of problems. Now you might say, well, Abraham should have told her. Well, guess what? If Abraham had told her, he would never be able to take Isaac, and she would never believe him that he's taking him because God had told him. Because she would have definitely said, no, the heathens sacrifice their sons. Why are you doing what heathens do? No, it can't be God. Our God won't say that. See, that would have been Sarah. So, very critical to note that this matter was addressed by Abraham in such a way because he thought it was best not to do it that way. And I believe Abraham was a very wise man, and he did the right thing according to his correct understanding. And I believe that Sarah, unfortunately, for better or worse, she didn't show wisdom, because she should have trusted her husband, who had lived with her, had been honest and truthful with her all those years. She should have trusted him that if he had taken the son, there must be a good reason for it. She shouldn't just believe a stranger. A stranger comes to your door and gives you some information. She should not have believed him. That was a mistake of Sarah. Hence why her early death. She died a death before her age was supposed to be. And then you might say, well, isn't it the fact that we have our years allotted to us? Well, yes and no. To most people, they're taught this axiom, religious axiom, that your age is going to be such and such. I don't know, let's just say, 105 years old for somebody. And you might believe that, but yet God could give that person another 15 years. And God could make that person live 120 years. Well, how did that happen? How did God extend his age? Because if he was supposed to be only 105, now why did he live 120 years? Now, is God contradicting God? Because, if you say that God had dictated his age to 105, and suddenly God doesn't take his life away, and he lives another 15 years, then what? So who's right? And is God contradicting God? The answer is no. The answer is this, that we are responsible for our life. That's the answer. We are responsible. God can define an age for us. God can say that this person will live to be 105 years old. Now, if I don't conduct myself right, I could die earlier than that. Is that God's fault? No, because certain part of my life is in my hand, and the rest is in God's hand. So this idea that God does everything, so everything is written in stone, is actually not entirely accurate. Some of the things are changeable. In other words, a man's age can be changed by God or man. And we've heard of people, young people, who take their lives. They commit suicide. But why do they commit suicide? If God had written a longer age for them, you might wonder and you might think, well, maybe God had decided he would go younger. And I tell you this, that is absolutely not true. God does not desire for humanity to suffer. God does not desire it. This is an undesirable effect of where we live and how we live. In other words, it's our world in which we live, that we have people, young people dying from cancer, from radiation, from all sorts of these, new technologies that we, obviously they help us, at the same time they can hinder us as well. So it's important to note that long life, yes, is determined by God, yes, is determined by your conduct, of how you obey God's voice. It is all done on that basis, but we can, by our own actions, prolong our life or reduce our life. That's another unfortunate truth that I don't think many people want to admit that, but unfortunately it is so. It is so. It happens. Because one of the things I say to people, give you an example, is that we have people who go to war, to fight war, and some of our soldiers don't come back home. Why don't they come back home while other soldiers come back home? The reason being, because some of the soldiers have praying spouses. Some of the soldiers have praying mothers. So their mothers are praying for them, their spouses are praying for them, and those soldiers return home safe. Then we have other soldiers, their spouses don't pray for them, their mothers don't pray for them. Guess what happens to those soldiers? They die. So did God write their age? Did God write their death? Or did somebody else write their death? Think about that. So we need to consider everything, that everything in the heavens is not black and white as we think. In other words, there are gray areas. There are areas that we don't know how they operate. However, we do know that we have input into those areas. Now, our input can facilitate or debilitate that result. The result, what happens to you, is upon the influence of what you do. Now, so it comes back to the power of the tongue. If you continue to speak death to yourself, then God will give you death. If you continue to speak life and favor to yourself, then God will give you favor. So it is very imperative, if I can say this, it's imperative that, as I said earlier, that you bind this to yourselves. Every day when you go to bed, you speak good thoughts, you speak words to give thanks to God. Give plenty of thanks to God when you go to bed, and give plenty of thanks when you wake up in a new day. It's very, very important. This will have a hugely beneficial effect to your life, both professionally and personally. So I hope that I'm able to instill some thoughtful, useful information into your life, that you may use that to better your lives. It is so very important, because God wants you to have an abundant life. Jesus came, Jesus died, and Jesus rose so that you may have an abundant life. Not that your life will be cut down and you die early and you die miserable and you're not full of years and lacking and all that. God does not want you to lack. We serve an abundant God, a great God, a mighty God. But the only way we can reap the blessings is that we need to start living right, and we need to start speaking the right words. If you are used to speaking negatively, drop the negative speech. Change your speech. Try and consciously not to use words that are negative and affect your life negatively. The more you do that, the more you will clean up your life to live a better person. So with that, I thank you for listening. I'm going to pass over to Rabbi Kefa, and I'm going to say a Shabbat Shalom and a Shalom Shalom to you from over this side of the east. Rabbi Simon Altaf Hakohen, Shalom Shalom.
Okay, Mishpaha, I hope you enjoyed the lecture today. I hope you gained some understanding, some instruction that can kind of help you, that can really help you going forward on how you need to carry on with your lives going forward to enhance yourselves and make yourselves better people going forward. Everyone's still here. Just want to make sure we can be heard here before we wrap it up. But I would like to leave it open for any questions. I know there was some person in here, questioning the, who did Jesus come for method, ideology. I don't know if they're still here or not. But if there's any other questions, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up here. But if there's any other questions, please, text them in. If not, we're going to, close up this Shabbat so you can go be with your families, and if your Shabbat is over, that you can, begin your 6 days of labor as well. But I think I tell you what's going on, and where the God of Israel, the pulse of Israel today, is all about focusing on the family and truly how we're supposed to live. how to live right. I firmly believe that's where we are in today's time, and truly how we can make a difference. You know, how you and we can make a difference in this world. It only starts with it's only one person. You're just one person. And I mean that just one person in a respectful way. You're one person and you can make a difference. You can make a difference. You know, you just have to believe it. And you can make a difference. And you will make a difference because you're Israel. And it doesn't matter the timing. The timing really doesn't matter. Just so you know that you can and you will make a difference. That's more than half of the battle right there. You know, the time will take care of itself. Time is the ally to the Hebrew. You need to understand that. Time is our ally. We have great history. We have great instruction for us going forward on what we need to do. Don't rush things. Some of you may feel like, my goodness, it's just, you know, time, blah, blah, when. Don't worry about the when, or even don't worry about the how. You only concern yourself with the do. You just keep doing. That's all. I mean, it's quite easy for us, but yet we make it so complex sometimes. And we need to simplify our lives so that they can be full. You know, we need to uncomplicate our lives so that they can be free. I think that's important to understand. So, on that note, we'll close up the lecture for the Shabbat. I would encourage y'all to have a great Shabbat. Enjoy your family. Enjoy your friends and your loved ones. Make memories. And have an awesome 6 days of labor ahead. And go out there and just continue doing. Be like Nike, just do it. Baruch Hashem, Master Jesus of Nazareth. So Shabbat Shalom to all of you, and Shalom Shalom to you as well. Remember, you can find the lectures. You can find the lectures on YouTube. On the YouTube, just just type in SimAlt, SIMALT. On the search box on YouTube, all the lectures will be there. Okay? Shalom Shalom to all of you, Mishpahah, and Shabbat Shalom to you as well.